yes, everyone. You know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur, and we are going to be talking about, or I guess we already have been plenty, let's be honest, the funeral of Antonio Conte. He has been officially sacked by Spurs. It is going to be Christian Stellini and Ryan Mason we trust from here on out, and that is something we certainly are going to need to be talking about as well, because it does seem a bit of a bold call, if you ask me, to be keeping those two in charge, especially because we already know that this club cares heavily about top four. In fact, kind of to their own detriment, they only really care about top four from what we really seem to make of. And if that's the case, then why would they really trust it in the case of Mason and Stellini to get the job done for top four? Should they maybe hire a guy like Pochettino, hire a guy like Nagelsmann sooner, hire maybe someone else that like a Luis Enrique who could maybe be available for the job actually sooner in time, somebody who's actually already out of work that I guess you could just pick up the contracts for and just sign them as soon as possible. But are they maybe being a bit cheap about it? Is it maybe too expensive to get rid of Conte? I don't really think so. I think it's only really something around like 5 million. But everybody, do let me know your kind of thoughts on the situation. I kind of was meant to already put really a poll on this whole situation about who you really want, Pochettino or Nagelsmann. I will do that in just a second. But also, the other kind of bit of news out there, everybody, is that Paratici is also kind of in a bit of trouble as well. I think he was due to have some court hearings in Turin very soon, and maybe they've been postponed or something like that. But he is due to maybe face the law of Italy in a very due time or pretty soon, everybody. And so does that then mean then he could actually have his job in jeopardy? And also with Antonio Conte going, someone that Paratici did hire, is that probably showing that maybe his managerial sort of appointments haven't really been satisfying, someone like Daniel Levy, because he originally hired Nuno Espirito Santo. That really didn't go well. Then he brings in Antonio Conte, and then that's kind of gone up in flames as well. So is Paratici headed out the door? So what's also like his legacy is really the question. But some of the kind of the topics that I'm just going to outline here, everybody, and then I'm going to get to some of the comments here. And the one is one of the topics here, everybody, is Davies and Emerson now basically out for some time. I think Emerson is out for the rest of the season. It looks like he's picked up some type of knee injury, and it really does make you ask questions of kind of the medical department, because I guess since he's gone to Brazil, I'm not sure if he played in a game or anything like that, but he did pick up kind of a serious knee injury. Now is going to have surgery, I guess, and it's going to basically be out for the rest of the season. And what does that mean for the Poronator, everybody? What does that mean for Pedro the Postman? Could he step in and kind of win the fans over even further, especially after his comments against the likes of Tim Sherwood? That would be fun to see. But also Davies being out, I feel like Davies, as much as I do kind of apologize for him a lot, I feel like he has been a bit more of the symbol of consistency at that left wing back spot. I feel like Sassagnon's been really spotty. I feel like the likes of Perisic has been really spotty. So is Davies, him being out now, a real detriment to Spurs? Because that means we're going to have to probably pick Sassagnon, who's just only coming back from injury, or do we pick someone like Perisic, who I think has just been a bit of a liability down that side the whole season? And then also with Davies out, I think that probably means Longley for the rest of the season too. So who do you really match with Longley? Because he's been kind of bad, he's been kind of bad defensively, been great in possession, at least in my opinion. So it's kind of a tough one, because Davies, like I said, has been maybe more important to at least the squad than we think. While we're still playing terribly, I mean, I do think he is actually fixing a lot of sort of the squad issues that we have at this moment in time. And that really is in that left-sided center back spot, as well as in that left wing back spot. And then also with Emerson, you kind of do have to feel for him, I think, too, everybody, because with Emerson, he is sort of, kind of winning some fans back over again. And after this injury, it's just, you just have to feel for him. But like I said, maybe time for Pedro Porro to step up and show everybody that this is his prison, like he said to Tim Sherwood. And also, this is kind of the topic that I was just sort of talking about earlier. I see some people in the comments bringing it up, so I'll be happy to chat with them about it. But it is a topic that I hope we get to dig into today, which is, if all Enoch and Levy care about is top four, then why would they trust Ryan Mason and Stellini to deliver that top four? And that's kind of the question on my mind, is why not just bring in a manager sooner that can also assess the situation, get rid of players sooner, get rid of some of kind of the people that we know probably are some of the problem players, instead of giving them kind of more time to torture us for the rest of the season. It does seem like a bit of kind of an odd one from them, considering, like I said, how much top four does mean financially to this football club. And then also, are maybe we better off or without Antonio Conte's coaching staff? Because I guess everybody's kind of remaining behind bar Antonio Conte. I believe Stellini, of course, is still there. We know Ryan Mason's still there, but a lot of Conte's kind of core training staff, I believe, and coaching staff is still there. So is that maybe to our detriment? Is that, maybe a good thing to have? You rather just be Ryan Mason, I guess, in charge? Do let me know also the situation on that one. While I kind of would maybe just, I don't know, like I've apologized for Conte a lot, but while I would maybe just want a clean break, it does maybe seem like if you were to put Ryan Mason as the sole guy in charge, it kind of does set him up for kind of the slaughter. And it feels like he could have a future, it could have like an up and coming sort of managerial career. So if you were to, give him the big role, like it could go well, but also could kind of crash and burn. And I feel like that would also be a real harsh way to kind of introduce him into management. So while I do maybe want a bit more of a cleaner break from the likes of Antonio Conte, I guess if this is the choice that the ownership have decided, which I think is a poor one, it feels like maybe keeping the coaching staff is probably the best idea, because putting Ryan Mason under that pressure just might not be fair to him, considering his sort of future and what he wants to be, I guess, as a manager. And then everybody as well, let me know, Pochettino or Nagelsmann or someone else. Let me know why everybody as well has also switched from kind of a Pochettino to Nagelsmann, because I've kind of remained firm on the likes of Pochettino since Tuchel, I guess, was taken out of the equation. I guess originally I was a bit more kind of leaning towards Tuchel, because I do feel like he has a bit more of an impressive resume, and he also has a bit more of an impressive kind of manner and what he's been able to do with various formations, various systems, various tactics. But if we want to get back to maybe more of a rebuild, back to a project, I could see why these are kind of the two top candidates, Pochettino and Nagelsmann. But why is everybody kind of preferring Nagelsmann over Pochettino? I'm kind of curious, because when it comes to me with Nagelsmann, it's like I do realize he is, and I do recognize he's absolutely probably the best up and coming young manager of probably his generation. But I do kind of have some, worries about what happened with Bayern. And I also do think as well, maybe that Pochettino could be a better suitor for us. And Nagelsmann, do feel like his kind of approach to football is very gung ho and is very exciting to watch. But also maybe with our defense and also with the players that we have at our disposal could be maybe too much at once. And maybe we could end up being like a bit of a Marcelo Bielsa, type team, where we're just winning some games, maybe 4-3, but also losing games like 6-1 at the same time. Because I do feel like Nagelsmann is a very impressive coach. Don't get me wrong. I feel like he is probably at the top of my list as well, but I do have some worries and I do have concerns that I would love to get into with people on this fan show when it comes to him as well, because I feel like he didn't exactly, hit the heights at Bayern, especially after he was given sort of the keys to kind of engage their own rebuild. He was given a lot of young players. He was given a lot of players of his own choice, like Upamecano, Sabitzer, and I think a few more like Gravenberch as well, like young players that were sort of up and coming for him. And he didn't exactly do the very best with them. And also as well, we've heard about some of the I guess some of the ways I guess he argued with some of the coaching or kind of the hierarchy at Bayern, as well as also kind of some of the players. So be interesting to see if that would carry to Spurs. But maybe you give him the benefit of the doubt and just sort of think that that's not something that would repeat itself. But also Paratici, like I said, likely to go in the summer. And what is the legacy of Paratici? That's also something that'll be fun to dip into, everybody. What is the legacy of Fabio Paratici? I'm going to get to some comments here, and then we'll get kicked off at this fan show, everybody. The link should be in the community section if you guys do want to come on and have your say, everybody, and hit that like button while you're already in here. Darren Kilbane is in the house saying Levy should sack Levy. And also as well, right? We need to make the right footballing operation decisions. We need to be making the right footballing decisions. And Levy certainly isn't the one, I think, to be leading us into this rebuild, because on the business side of things, we're obviously in a much better case than we are in the footballing side of things. And we're going to need the right person in charge to make the right footballing decisions to bring it to get us on the right track. And I don't think Levy obviously has the right track record for that. Lee Richards grabbing the Flat Cap membership. Big yourself up, Lee. Thank you very much for the support, brother. And also thank you as well for joining the show today, my friend. Roy McAvoy, time for Levy to hit the road. I agree with you there, Roy. Slips also 128 saying Levy should sack Levy. David Hall, can Levy go, please? Big yourself up, David Hall. Eamon Burr saying, why wait till the summer to appoint a new manager? Get it done now so he knows who to get rid of and who to keep. Also knowing Levy, he will fuck about and not appoint a manager until it is far too late. That's what I don't really get. Like, we only know that there's one competition left, Eamon. So why not just bring in somebody that was available, somebody that was sort of, I guess, looking for a job at this moment in time? It also could be the case, let's be honest, Eamon, that with the likes of Jose leaving, likes of Pochettino leaving in the manner that he did, I guess also Conte leaving in this sort of manner, have a lot of sort of more high profile managers sort of kind of thought to themselves that they might be a bit more reluctant, a bit more hesitant to sort of go after Spurs because it is looking like a bit of a graveyard destination at this moment in time. So you could see where their reluctance could be coming from. But Eamon, I agree with you, my man. I feel like it doesn't make sense to go with Mason and Stellini for the rest of the season, knowing that there is this top four is still well within reach. And then also as well, it feels like you could get ahead on things when it comes to getting rid of certain players, as well as finding, the right sort of foundation to build on in the summer instead of sort of starting completely from scratch in the summer. It'd be nice to sort of get the process going, get it started early. I'm with you there, Eamon. I'm with you. Ellie is in the house saying, so sad I can't come on, coughing too much, but I'm very sad our club is in disarray once again. I'm very sad about it as well, Ellie, and everybody as well. Do think of THFC till I die. Head on over there, show them some support, because I do think Ellie's not in a good way right now. She's on the mend though, hopefully, and also Dermot, I do think is going to be taking some at least a week from the channel, I think, due to some personal issues as well. But Dermot, I wish you a lot of strength this week, my friend, and also Ellie. I wish you a lot of strength because you're hopefully on the mend sometime soon. But pick yourself up, Ellie, and everybody show THFC till I die some support over there. Tequila is in the house saying Spurs doing my head in. I mean, surprised if they're not doing anybody's head in. Tequila, they should be doing everybody's head in. Mick is in the house. Good to see you, Mick. We have Jacob in here. Big ups and hugs needed. Times are tough, but we move, I guess. Yeah, definitely going to be one for plenty of hugs, hopefully, Jacob. But we also have Rufus in the house. We'll be speaking to him later. We have Chris in here. Big up, Chris. Hopefully, you can come on and have your say, Chris. Hopefully, you have the time for it, my friend. King Hoddle's in here. Exited 3 cups to a championship team, a near championship team, and a poor AC Milan versus the top 7 teams. The record was 2 wins and 6 defeats. And watching us was the equivalent of a visit to the dentist. I think it's probably quite kind, King Huddle. Plenty of people seem to have described it as watching paint dry. So maybe a visit to the dentist is actually a bit more action-packed than actually watching paint dry. But I agree with you when it comes to AC Milan. I do feel like AC Milan were genuinely one of the worst teams I had seen in some time in the Champions League. It felt like we were the 2 worst teams in the Champions League coming up against each other in that. And we were 2 teams that really just didn't want to play football. It looked like that's what also was really sad about it. Like nobody wanted to really play. Nobody wanted to play any sort of convincing type of performance. It was just 2 teams that wanted to just sort of see it out with a 1-0 one. It really was quite disgusting. And I agree with you with some of the ways that we did get knocked out. But a lot of the culprits, I think, who did get Conte knocked out are the same culprits that got a lot of managers from previous regimes knocked out as well. So it kind of goes both ways. I think Conte, of course, should take his blame for how he got knocked out in certain competitions, but also as well, let's be honest, it's a lot of the same culprits as you probably have seen King Huddle knock out Pochettino out of certain cup competitions, knock out Jose of certain cup competitions, and so on. So I think you know where I'm coming from on that. Big yourself up, my man. And it's good to have you in the house. And I agree with you on the AC Milan one. It was absolutely disgusting. Big yourself up, Zoe. Saying big up, everyone. Haven't been watching much recently as I felt really down about Spurs. Hopefully a new beginning is coming. Still need the owners out, though. Big yourself up, Zoe. And I don't blame you, and do appreciate you still putting in a comment. Do appreciate you still tuning in as you do, Zoe. But it is a tough time at this moment. I've been resorting to the likes of FIFA late at night just to take my mind off of things. I know Dave's been listening to some various like sort of podcasts, playing some Ultimate Team to take his mind off of things. We're just trying to ramp up the content as much as we can, Zoe. But it is hard. Like it's hard to sort of go through it all again, especially with a new manager. I think it's going to be hard for me because if a lot of sort of things don't change, I'm worried the next manager is sort of going to suffer the same fate, if you ask me. But big yourself up, Zoe. It's good to have you in the house. We also have Dill is in here saying big up Jensen Jensen Gals, Stellini on the wheels, and Stellini we trust, my friend, and Stellini we trust. Good to see you as well. I have in here Sander Mulligan. Funny how Doherty suddenly looks like Prime Bale down the side for Ireland now. That's the reason why Dave is gone right now, everybody. It's halftime, 0-0 with the likes of France. It could be a bit of an upset. Maybe Mbappe's captaincy is not off to a good start so far because Ireland are putting in a good performance. And he did tell me, though, that Doherty didn't perform too well in the last match. But it does seem like maybe against the bigger teams in these cup competitions or in these international competitions, should I say, does seem to do quite well, actually, Sander. Big yourself up, my friend, and good to have you in the house. Ian Cook in here saying, good evening, everybody. How we keeping? We're keeping all well. Roy McAvoy saying, plenty of our current crop of players need shifted on as soon as possible. I agree with you there, Roy. And then also Tequila 316, Jacko, give us a sir. Sir, we're going to need it this weekend. Tequila, definitely going to need plenty of sirs in the house. Also have Ellie279 is saying, question, do you think that Tottenham's nice culture and players being friendly, matey are holding them back? I feel like we're in the moment of sort of kind of I keep saying rebuild. I should look for a different word, but like a mix up of maybe a different type of culture, a different type of attitude. Believe me, I think a lot of the players from sort of the Pochettino generation do have that sort of friendly, matey attitude. You look at especially Eric Dyer when he spoke about when Doherty left. He basically was acting like Doherty had basically died. Some of the words that he was using and some of the phrases that he was using when Doherty had left the club, saying things like, you know, you never see it coming until it happens and you'll never see them again. It was just like bizarre. Like it really was like as if, you know, the guy had died and like they're incapable of ever seeing each other ever again. So I do agree with you. There is a bit of a too friendly and matey sort of culture around here. But at the same time, like I think we are trying to get rid of it. Like we have players like Richarlison, Emerson, Bentancur, Højbjerg, I think as well, Kulusevski, Romero. A lot of the recent players I think we have signed have a much better sort of attitude and seem to have much more of, at least from what appears to be a much more of a winning attitude than I guess the previous players have. But I mean, plenty of people could disagree with me on that one if they feel. Pick yourself up, Ellie. We also have Jason Bell in the house saying, could bringing in a new coach this late into the season actually help us in the top four? I don't think so. Maybe an interim manager is the best choice. I guess, Jason, you're right. Could just sort of letting the players try to finish top four. It's sort of like, you know, don't break the bank too much. Don't sort of, you know, change things too much. Let them sort of, I guess, do it themselves to get to top four with the whatever manager they have. Big yourself up, King Huddle. Thank you for all the support. He's out for the rest of the season by the looks of things, King Huddle. Let me know what you think of that, brother, because it's tough. It's tough. I actually think it's a real sad thing to see because Emerson, I think he started winning fans back over. I think he started to show as well that the right-hand side could be maybe something really good for the future. I think it still is something really good for the future with him and Poro, but it is sad to see with how he started, you know, turning things around and winning fans over again, King Hoddle. And you and I have been supporting him from the beginning. Big yourself up. Sean Maddox saying Poro play right back. That is fine with roughly one game per week. Davies will be missed because Paratici has been four. Exactly right, Sean. And also Sassignon, I'm not sure on his recovery status, but he could be coming back soon, but he might be just only coming back. I'm not really sure because it said it was going to be, I think, the 1st of April, but I don't really know on his sort of status. So it's a tough one there, Sean, because it feels like with Davies out, we don't really have any good options. Claude Murphy saying, yes, Emerson played for Brazil against Morocco and got injured. That's a shame. That is a shame. And also we'll talk about our luck actually in these international games as well, Claude. King Hoddle saying, is Big Dave at the Ireland game then? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I'm probably a little slow in the chat here. Big yourself up, Claude Murphy. Big yourself up, Sean. We also have HPH saying, because people just assume that Pochettino wants to come back. Good point, actually. And also, how much have we invested since Pochettino has left? I think there's a statistic that said that we've invested more than we've ever have since Pochettino, or even compared to when Pochettino was actually here. So we really didn't give Pochettino any money whatsoever. But then when it's come to other managers, we've actually given them a whole lot more. So you could see why maybe he could be a bit more upset with that because he was still so successful with us, at least to a degree. Pick yourself up, HPH. Rohan is in the house. Good to see you, Rohan. Lee Richards is in here saying nobody was going to come in for 10 games. Be realistic. What matters is what we do after this season. Have to get it right with the next manager or we will be really finished. For that, it's Nagelsmann or Poch. I'm with you there, Lee, 100%. And I kind of thought maybe it would be better off to get a manager in right now because then we could get some of this kickstart this process a little sooner. But maybe you're right. I guess sort of certain players will only just be waiting just to get on the beach for the summer. And there's only so much you can do. So maybe I see where you're coming from. Big yourself up. The study of Shark as well. We also have Welsh Gal. Good to see you, Welsh Gal. Big up, Jack. Legend. Come on, you Spurs. Please do the right thing. Take our Bleaker Club forward. I'm trying my best here, Welsh Gal. But hopefully people can come on and have their say and, maybe talk about how we can fix things over here. Bjorn Wandel's in here. It's that wonderful time of the year. It's basically the time of the year, whether you decide for the players are going to actually push for top four, where they're going to kind of kick their sandals on, I guess, instead of off, and head on over to the beach. Foggy Foam, good evening, guys. Good to see you. Dan Davenport as well. We also have Gwen Evans is in here. Good evening, guys. The problem is the recruitment pathetic, plus 210 million pounds worth of players on loan, not going to get that back. Bad business. A lot of those players out on loan, I guess, are mostly, Hitchin players, if you look at it, Gwen. But I do see where you're coming from when it comes to recruitment. And also even this post summer, it's been a weird one where a lot of the players I think we brought in, I highly rated, but they haven't all really hit the ground running. I think the only one from this summer, I'm trying to even think, that's really exactly had a great season, but it's been a tough one. It's not really been consistent exactly from anybody, because Basuma, of course, haven't impressed. Richarlison, we want to see him do well, but he hasn't exactly impressed himself. Of course, Danjuma has just been an absolute bust. Maybe Pedro Porro is starting to look like probably maybe one of the better signings of the summer. It really has been a poor one. Fraser Forster started to look like one of the better signings this summer. That's when it's really kind of a bad situation, but pick yourself up. We also have Sean E.J. Daniel. James Richmond is in the house. Good to see you. Scooter reacts as well. James Richmond saying, so Nagelsmann will likely be the next manager. I'd rather see Pochettino, but whoever is hired must have the total support of all the fans, but especially the top management. I agree, James, because you just don't want to see Nagelsmann, Pochettino, whoever it may be. You don't want to see them suffer the same fate, right? You don't want to see them come into things and end up basically suffering the same sort of problems and the same sort of systemic problems, if you will, that previous managers have when it comes to players, when it comes to the ownership, when it comes to the recruitment, all those sort of things. Like, you don't want to see the same manager fall for the same sort of issues, because I think that well and could truly happen if we don't really change our act. So big yourself up. It's good to see you. Chris is in the house as well. Pete Dubs, the one and only Rhode Island's finest. Good to see you, my friend. Steve G saying, can you imagine the backlash if Levy appointed a manager now and we finished outside the top four? It was never going to happen, mate. Steve D, it's kind of curious that some people are saying to being a bit unrealistic about that. I guess I never really thought about that being unrealistic. I'm not sure if it's happened before, but I've seen it, of course, happen with relegation clubs. I think Jesse Marsh was, of course, brought in quite late at the likes of Leeds. You've seen Everton, I think, bring in, I think it was Frank Lampard quite late into the season as recent examples. Of course, that's more for the relegation fight, and maybe that's a truly different thing. But when you are trying to still push for something, it seems like you would maybe bring in a new manager and see if he can try to change things in the time being. But I probably could be unrealistic, Steve. I mean, plenty of things I am. So let me know. But I kind of felt like if we were to get the process started on sort of at least getting rid of a lot of players, as well as sort of trying to maybe get some players back under sort of at least some good form going into the rest of the season, and maybe get the right vibes back, felt like maybe it was a good opportunity. But if it is unrealistic, I can definitely listen to that. Let me know, my friend. Good to see you, though. Steve D. Russ Vernon is in the house. Big up, Jack and chat. Hope you're well. If Tottenham get this right, I think they could be on the up. But after the Saints interview, the writing was on the wall for Conte sacking. Yeah, he basically sacked himself, if you ask me. It basically was like self-inflicted. Big yourself up, Tala Ahmed. If Levy legitimately thought Conte couldn't build us long-term, you better back whoever comes in next for the long-term. I bet how many times have we said this here, Tala? But you have to hope that at least a lot of players will change. At least a lot of sort of turnover will happen this summer. You hope it's a busy summer. You hope that it's not only players that we bring in, but because we brought in, I thought, a lot of good players this last summer. I think it's also getting rid of a lot of players too. It's important to do that. But we are in desperate need of center backs. We're in desperate need of a new goalkeeper. There's huge turnover that needs to happen. We're absolutely in a bad position. Good to see you, though, my friend. And then the Midnight Garden, good to see you. But let's get this show kicked off on the road, everybody. We're going to get it kick started with the one and only opener, Mia. See what she has to say on this whole situation. Mia, yet again, you're going to have to fix Tottenham for us.
Oh dear. Do you know what? I feel like that I've lost the words on what I can really say about Tottenham. I feel like trying to articulate it is just really difficult, because I feel like it's just, there's not really many words right now, do you know? It's just a mess, isn't it? It's just a circus, and it's just an absolute mess. with what's going on, to be honest. Although
Feels like I keep doing
I
that with
w-
you on each and every fan show. Like maybe the last 3 or 4, I'm like, "I need you to fix Tottenham for us again, Mia." And it's just also, does that speak just this is a small question before we get into the big ones. Does that speak to also, like, how slow the club have kinda been that, like, right, 3 or 4 fan shows have happened, it feels like we're kinda still saying a lot of the same things.
Yeah, I think that I wonder if there was a bit of an issue with the whole money situation and what that kind of held it up, because that seems to be what was holding it up. From little things that I had read from people that are quite credible, it looked like that the money situation was something that was a bit of a sticking point. So this is why I feel that Stellini's staying and he's all the rest of his like backroom staff staying is basically they put him on gardening leave. That's what I think it is. Because if you look at the words that he said, the words were very cleverly put. So they didn't say we sacked him. They said he's leaving on mutual agreement. So for me, that says that he has come to an agreement with the club. And I honestly think that it's something to do with, okay, I'll go on gardening leave because they won't want me there. The players, they're going to be obviously funny about it. I'm not going to come back, but Stellini can stay, and Mason can obviously help him out. Everyone else can stay until the end of the season. That's what I think personally. Oh, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Sorry, that's completely on me. I feel I'm also left a bit confused on the whole, official club statement, on everything, Mia. I'm also left very confused because I'm confused why Stellini has been left around. Like, because then it's like, is he basically on his own contract then, or is he like taking Conte's wages or something like that? Because that's where I'm left a bit confused. And you also have to worry that is it the case that the club are too cheap or something like that, or they found it too legally difficult to get rid of Conte and just bring in somebody else, or are they
I
seeing it as just what do you
I
think? Like,
think that the
yeah,
money is a big factor, but we also didn't want to try and sack him and end up like Chelsea, because we could not afford to do that. Because when he took them to court, he took them to the cleaners. They did not have to just pay what they originally said, they paid loads more. So I'm guessing that we don't want to be in that position. So I think they did tread probably quite carefully with what they did. So that's probably part of it, I think, is that
mhm,
they wanted to tread a little bit carefully because he has got form with Chelsea when they sacked him, and they didn't want to pay him.
yeah.
So
It is he has even, legal troubles with Chelsea, I think, to a degree, on a lot of kind of his own exit issues with that club. But it could be the case that I don't know, like, it seems obvious that maybe it is basically Conte sort of removing himself from the situation on mutual agreement with Daniel Levy, but they haven't technically officially sacked him and his training staff, and maybe it is the case that I guess Conte is sort of allowing his coaching staff to really be paid for the rest of sort of the foreseeable contract, which is for the rest of the season. And then that's where you just get, I don't know, like me, I'm then sort of push on to like, it feels like then we're being left in a limbo, left in a bit of a purgatory situation. Because are we better off with a new manager, or are we better off with this sort of interim situation? But some people have even said quickly too in the comments that I'm a bit unrealistic to maybe think that a manager could have come in for 10 games.
yeah, I think that as well, we want to try and make the correct decision. And if we try and get somebody in that quick, could that mean that we could rush it and make possibly the wrong decision? So is that part of it, that you don't really want them to rush because they could then make the wrong decision? And the only other thing I would say about that, though, there's a problem with that because Real Madrid are looking for a manager and apparently Chelsea are looking for a manager. So we could end up with Harry Potter from down at Chelsea, because if they take Nagelsmann at Chelsea and Poch goes to Madrid, then yeah, we've got Potter with his magic wand.
I've heard a lot of people, France are 1-0 up, everybody. Benjamin Pavard, a center
Yeah.
back that we should definitely go after, or up 1-0. So, Dave, is probably a little bit nervous and maybe screaming at the likes of his own defense at Ireland right now. But I agree with you on the Real Madrid thing, actually, Mia, because I've heard that Nagelsmann and Pochettino and a lot of people all have their eye on that job when Ancelotti leaves. So that could probably be part of the reason maybe why there's, it's taken a little bit of it's taken a bit of time. But there's also been a bit of an update, from the likes of Gary Jacob, I guess, saying that Spurs have made contact with Julian Nagelsmann and his representatives. So it is leaning heavily towards Nagelsmann at the moment. Yeah.
I think that to think that they're not going to try and get somebody, I don't think that's true. I think maybe he might sign a pre-contract if we can. Maybe he wants to have a bit of time out after what happened and then say, right, I'll come in the summer and sort this mess out then, because maybe he did want a little bit of a break from them, like from the whole thing, what happened to him. So I feel like that could obviously be a possibility, but I do think they did say that they're not going to stop looking for a manager because they've got Mason. If he did agree to come in, I believe that they would let him come in. And maybe I think it was Ten Hag when he come in, he sat in the stands and watched them for a little bit at Man United. Maybe Nagelsmann could do that. Maybe watch them for a bit and see what they're like and see what they can do, and maybe observing them might be a good idea if we can get him. But again, it's down to him because I think he's also on gardening leave, so they pay him up until he gets a new job. So he's not in a hurry because he's still getting paid.
Yeah, that's actually a good point as well. Like, why would he? I think it only does Bayern a favor. I think you're spot on, actually. It does Bayern a favor because you take them away from their own gardening leave pay, but don't take them away from ours, I guess.
No, that's it. So I suppose that's another factor. It's not ever like simple, is it, with Tottenham? Let's be honest. It's always more complicated. I was on with Philip this morning on my show, and I was on with on THFC Tada as well. And all we kept saying is it's never simple with Tottenham, is it? It's never simple. There's always so many other things because we've also got the Paratici thing going on as well. So, it's like, for goodness sakes.
Do you feel like Spurs could have acted sooner in certain ways, or do you kind of agree with Steve D here, who says any manager worth their salt wouldn't join until they got a preseason and players in? Too big a risk on all fronts.
Yeah, I do see that. I do think, like I say, that he might want to start afresh, come in the summer, sort it all out, get that pre-season done as well, whoever it may be. I do think that's obviously part of it as well. I do think that managers might see this as a bit of a 10 games left. It's a bit meh, in it, like, what can I really do, because it's not going to be my players. They're going to have to learn a new system, and I've not got time to implement it. So it's a bit like, what can I really do? So I do kind of agree with that.
Well, do you feel like Stellini and Mason are capable, or could this end up being a bit of a season's already over? Do you have any faith in them getting top four? Is there any way that the players can somehow turn themselves around now that Antonio Conte, the guy that they wanted out, is gone? Or do you feel like they're just kind of already on the beach, the players?
I think they've got something to prove now that Conte said that on such a worldwide stage, and people are going to have all eyes on them. So if they don't want to come out and prove something, that just shows their mentality as footballers. Because if you're being criticised, you could go off and be like, cry about it, throw a little tantrum, eat some chocolate, eat some ice cream, or you could put your big boy pants on and say, listen here, mate, I'm going to prove you wrong. Actually, look what I can do. So I think that it can go two ways. It depends on the type of player they are and what mentality they've got. If they're strong-minded, or if they're a bit weak-minded in that way. If they're thinking, oh, he was so mean to me, he was mean, like, absolute melts. If that you can imagine what players are like that, because there's players. See a player like Romero, see a player like Højbjerg, they're not going to take that as like that. Yeah, Højbjerg said he needs to maybe be a bit more specific, but he's not going to cry back. He's going to say, listen, I've got nothing to worry about because I'm going to prove it. Like, I know I'm a good player.
Or they might
Romero's
have
going to
known
be
they
like,
were giving their best, right?
yeah, Romero's going to be like, I don't give a damn. Like, really? Nah, I'm going to go out there and do what I do. Although he is a bit of a hothead and obviously does need to calm a little bit down. But actually, Ellie sent me a wonderful video of all of Romero's, like, well, not all, but quite a few of his tackles. Oh my goodness. Does that boy love to tackle, and does that boy love to
Yeah.
defend? I love it. I love the way he's so enthusiastic about defending. But anyway, we won't go on a tangent about Romero because I'll be
Well, I
here all
think he'll
night.
do well under any manager. That's why he's a good
Yeah.
player, right? You just wouldn't like how could he not do well under any sort of tutelage of any manager? It feels like he's still has also plenty to learn and plenty to get better at, right? And that's what's also scary. He's that good already, but probably still has plenty more things that he'll get better at kind of over time with also a bit more knowledge, a bit more wisdom that comes with, a guy
Yeah,
like
that's it. He is still quite young, really, relatively, for a defender as well. Because you think about the really good defenders, they do tend to be that little bit older, don't they? Because they're older, a bit wiser. Because when you look at when we had Jan and Toby, they
Mhm.
weren't young. They weren't when they were very good. They were that little bit more experienced. So,
They can be
I
like a
do think,
fine wine sometimes. I feel like a center back, right? They can
yeah,
age
that's it.
or age like a wine. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
I'm sure that he will age like a fine wine as well.
I bet you'll back him too, that's for sure. What do you feel like though when it comes to Nagelsmann or Pochettino? Like why is it maybe that it's Pochettino? Because I'm not sure. Where were you at before Nagelsmann was in the equation? Was it Pochettino as
No,
the first choice?
I
Yeah, before Nagelsmann
no.
was in the equation. Who was
No,
your
Poch was never my first choice. That's so when it comes to that, it's not like I'm choosing Nagelsmann over Poch because I never really
Yeah.
wanted Poch back. And I've said that all along. Literally, you can go back a while, and I've always said I don't want Poch back because I think it is not the right thing to do. If he come back, I would back him because that's the sort of person I am. I'd get behind a new manager, give them an opportunity. And if it's an old new manager, then I'd still do the same thing in Poch. So it's not really like that for me because I've never been really a Poch in person. So yeah, I
Mm,
think that for me, um, I think Nagelsmann likes young players. Yes, he's a bit inexperienced and maybe a bit of an unknown, like as in he hasn't had that much experience. But Poch didn't either when we got Poch.
sure.
And I know he had Premier League experience, but
I think the expectations might have been slightly different maybe at the time, but
maybe.
it's also can I just quickly ask, is it maybe just the whole not going back to, an old manager? It's just kind of a principle of yours, or is it also maybe other reasons that maybe Pochettino for you just
With
isn't
Poch,
into it?
I think it's probably too soon in his career. I think he went to PSG. He might have learned a little bit about himself, maybe grew a little bit, but I think he's got a bit more growing to do before he does come back.
He
And
could
I
take
think
another job, yeah, before.
yeah, I think he needs to take because I feel like the PSG job is a really tough one. And if he goes to Madrid, he's even more crazy because them fans are mad. Like they used to throw things at Bale's car. Like they're savages over there. They're really savage when it comes to their managers, when it comes to their players. He
Yeah,
has to be really tough to go over there. And if he does do it and he's tough enough to do it, then actually that shows something on him as a person, and I think that's a good experience. I do think it's a good
I'm with you there.
experience.
PSG is more of a tough environment than even Bayern is. Like we thought, like I'm with you. Like, and I was saying it to you in the back end when it came to Nagelsmann.
Yeah.
It's like while I have my sort of well, I have my criticism and my skeptic, I'm a bit skeptical of his first season because it really didn't go well for him at Bayern. His second season, I was quite shocked that he was sacked because it did seem to be going a lot better. Apart from the league, it did seem to be going a lot better for him. Like they were a lot more convincing in the Champions League. They were not knocked out of the cup competition, at least from what I'm aware of. And then they're sort of, maybe back to probably still win the league, even if it is going to end up being
Well,
close. So it just felt like a bit more premature to sack him in this case. While I'm a bit skeptical of how it began with him, it did seem like things were starting to maybe, you know, on the mend, or at least sort of. At least I thought.
Yeah, I think they're 1 point behind, and they're playing them in the next game, so they could go back to being first in the league. They've lost 3 games all season. Like it is a bit wild that they sacked him
They're
after that.
brutal. Like they're just as
They're
brutal as
very brutal.
PSG, but I think in this case, what's a bit strange about it is that we're kind of talking about how, oh, it's kind of, way too crazy to sort of sack a manager and then bring in a new one for the last 10 games. I mean, Bayern, I guess, have decided to do that. They've decided to back Tuchel to achieve, I guess, their Champions League dream as well as achieve their league dream for the rest of the season, which does seem bold, does seem like a big move to make, but also could maybe speak to maybe things were not well, I guess, with Nagelsmann maybe as well.
Yeah, I do understand that obviously things might have gone a little bit pear-shaped for him, and some of that there was all like a few different factors, wasn't there? There was the
Behind the
whole
scenes, more I
yeah,
think.
his girlfriend, and obviously the thing with Neuer. But as I said to you in the back end, we don't want to have players who've got player power. And if it was player power that got him out partly, then surely we can't hold that against him, because we were saying the same thing about Conte, that the players down tools for him, and that's not the right thing, right? So I can't then sit there and say I'm going to hold that up against another manager, because most managers, they lose a dressing room when they end up losing their job. So, I don't think we should really hold that against him. I'm always willing to see how someone behaves at my club, because different players, when he is with different players, it could be different. You just never know. So I would never write him off on that basis, in my
Mm,
opinion.
mm.
Obviously, that's just my opinion. Obviously everybody's entitled to say different, of course, but that's personally like how I try and be like logical with it, and that's my logic behind what I'm thinking.
I think he's still got a good career well ahead of him, I think, as well,
Yeah.
Nagelsmann, and he could probably see a club like Spurs as a tiny bit of a, I mean, if he were picking between Spurs and Real Madrid, like going from Bayern to Real Madrid is kind of like going from a Bayern to a Bayern. Like I think it is a very similar sort of expectations, if not maybe even higher. Who knows? And so if he were to sort of go for something that could be a bit more of a project and maybe not immediate, ruthless like expectations, perhaps Spurs could be a better choice. But let's be honest, also, Mia, like we've been not too patient ourselves over here. So it's also up to us, right, to show some patience with the new manager as well.
Yeah, I think it's
Or would you
patience is
disagree? Yeah. Yeah.
no, I completely agree, but I think that it's difficult to ask people for patience, because a lot of people will say, well, we have been patient.
Hmm.
Where I'm slightly of a different opinion, where I feel like we got very close with Poch, and Poch raised our expectations a lot, and they did the wrong thing, the club, by going after the managers that are win now managers. Like, they shouldn't have done that, absolutely not. But I feel like that we got very close to it. So it wasn't like Poch didn't get us close and just didn't get us over the line. So all but for a missed penalty against Man United, we would have won a cup. If they didn't sack Jose before,
Hmm.
that was obviously down to the club, but people did want him sacked, but they shouldn't have done it that timing. We could have got over the line and won a cup. So
Mm.
like, they're fine margins that I understand that happen in football. So I wouldn't necessarily be impatient with a manager, because I feel like that sometimes you have to give them that chance. We did with Poch, and the managers that seem to work have time. And I know we don't talk about them down the road, but them down the road, look, they were all baying for his blood last season. They were
Yeah.
literally out, out, out. And now look at them. So
Yeah.
I'm
It's hard
not
to
saying that
remember any
that's
Arteta ins at any
no.
stage. Like, yeah,
So I
exactly.
don't want to say that we're going to be in that that's going to happen to us in necessarily in that order, and what's happening to them currently. However, we do know that given a manager time, even in the bad times, we have to go through those bad times. That's what happens, isn't it? Sometimes you have to go through the bad times and you come through at the other side. There's
It's
light
part
at
of
the end of
life.
the tunnel. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of part of what life is. So yeah, I think that It's not. I think we should all try and unite and be behind whoever comes in. I would really like that, because I think it's really important for us
I'm
as
with you there.
fans to come together, because there's been so much divide and it's just not nice. And that's what I want back. See, like what we had, like I said the other day, what we had under Poch, that feeling, that nice feeling when
And
we
you feel
used to
like a
think,
manager
yeah.
can achieve that maybe better than sometimes players can achieve that. Like if we had 11 Romeros, maybe we would all be, like
I mean, if we had
singing
11
together. But
Romeros, I would be in heaven.
in
'Cause
seriousness, though, Mia, is it up to the manager to kind of sort of like
no,
the manager and his football, kind of like Derek Smith? Like, what would you make of Derek Smith's comments? Whoever comes in, the players need to enjoy their football, the fans need to be entertained, and please, 5+ years, a constant turnover of managers has not been a good strategy. Do you agree with him kind of on that?
yeah, I think it's down to players. It is down to managers. Like the manager has to get players in that want to play and want to give that effort. So just like what Poch did when Poch first come in, he got rid of so many players. Like he did get rid of a lot of dead wood, and so we know that that needs to happen at this club. They need to go. They need to just get gone. Rip up their contracts if you have to. We should do that. And I think that's really important. And then if you get young, hungry players in, just like what Poch did, and that's why I'm a bit keen on Nagelsmann, because he likes young players as well. If you do get those young players and have a core of like a few older players to guide them as well, I think that it would be really good, because they're all hungry. And that's
Hmm.
what worked with Poch, because they were all hungry to work hard for Poch, because they were young, they were energetic. It's, sometimes when you wear the same thing over and over again, you get bored of it, right? You're just like, oh, this is boring. I want to wear something different.
Yeah.
And that's what the players are like. It's just like they're old and we're bored of you now. We want you to go. You don't want to
Yeah.
be here. You're bored. We're bored of seeing your faces
Yeah.
wearing our shirt and
Yeah.
making us ashamed of it. So go. So
Yeah.
that's, we
I'm with
need
you
to.
there.
So there's so many different things, obviously, that the manager can do to make to help along with that, with us enjoying football again, with us enjoying what we're watching, and to make it feel more united. Because if a new manager comes in, get some wins behind him, some good football, I think it will change the feeling about it. I think people will feel a bit differently. And
Hmm.
feel a bit more united maybe about it. I know people don't always, if people don't want Poch, and they're going to be like, oh, I didn't want him. But I feel like I say, we all need to just get behind whoever comes. Like whoever comes, I'm going to have to deal with it. I can't make that
Or
choice.
Or
So
whoever achieves what I guess Derek and you have been talking about, which is sort of a brand of football that fans can get behind, but also a brand of football that we can see has a future and we can see maybe can lead us down to success and whatnot as well, right? And
yeah,
whether that
if
happens via Nagelsmann or Pochettino, I think fans will still come together if that's what we see in front of us.
Yeah, I think if we see, like, we turn up at these games and they, they look like they mean something to these players, and then we're going to get behind them because it looks like they mean something to them. If we get into like what Poch did, he did, if we get into those finals, those semi-finals, and we get that feeling again where we feel like, yeah, we're gonna, we're up for it. Even I know people say that that Champions League run was a bit of a fluke and it was a bit of luck. And sometimes you do need luck in football. Like, let's be honest, there's been many a game or many a time when you think that was lucky. They got lucky with who they got, in the draw. They got lucky with that. They got lucky with this. So yeah, it was a bit of luck, but we did show fight to even get through, because we thought we weren't going to get through to in that group, because that group was a hard group, but
Yeah.
we kind of fought for it. And yeah, we weren't very good in the league that season, but we fought for that Champions League, and that made a difference, because that feeling I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, and that
I'm with you.
Champions League run, because that is something. Yeah, we didn't win it, and I know people are going to go, but you're a loser because you said you're enjoying it, but we didn't win. But it's that feeling, like nothing's
Yeah.
going to change that feeling for me. When I watched that ball go in the net, when Lucas Moura scored that hat trick, that final goal, I still feel exactly the same. It still makes me so emotional, because I go back to that moment, and it's moments in football that create those things, that feeling, and people want that back. They just want that feeling back.
Last thing, I completely agree, and I think we just all want to come back together and find some sort of thing that we can see has a future and that we can get behind. I completely agree. Just quickly, maybe one of the last things I'll ask you here, and then plug the channel for me. This is from Tottenham Tears, from Gary Jacob, and another trusted source, I guess, that informs on Tottenham, and it's saying Nagelsmann wants to weigh up his options before the end of the season, as multiple jobs will be available. He wants to know club strategies and potential transfers. So basically weighing up his options and sort of weighing up maybe the offers that are given to him. I guess that's more or less what you said when alluding to the Real Madrid situation and whatnot, right?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, what manager wouldn't do that? Like, let's be honest. If you know your worth, you're going to be thinking like that, aren't you? Yeah, we're going to be upset because it hurts our feelings because, he doesn't want to come to us and it's not nice because we're being rejected. None of us like to be rejected. But I think that it's understandable because if it was me in that position, I would want to know all those things too. And I'd want to know straight, like, are you serious about this? Are you going to do this? And are we going to do that? So I kind of get why any manager would do that. And because Poch is doing the same. Poch is
Yeah.
chomping at the bit for us. So we can say, yeah, Nagelsmann is doing that and maybe not criticize. People might see that as a negative, but Poch is probably doing the exact same thing, in my opinion. So it is understandable.
Yeah, and I hear you. I hear you, and I feel like I'm not surprised that with 10 games left this season and everything, Nagelsmann is sort of gonna, take his money that Bayern are paying him right now, and he's just gonna not act too quickly on things. Like, it does sort of make sense, and I don't really blame him. Let's be honest, because we all know Spurs has a lot of issues right now. So why would he come in and save us so soon? It really is unlikely that anybody would come in and want to save us from the situation at this moment in time. But Mia, any kind of things I didn't get to let you say? Any kind of sort of topics that you want to touch on?
No, do you know what? It's always funny because I always come off and then go, "Oh yeah, I should have said that," because I've got so much to always think
Forever
about
hold
that
your
I'm
peace.
thinking. Yeah, like I'm always thinking though, and I've got so much to say. It's not like I don't talk enough on my own show, but yeah, like I always have more to say. There's always more to say, isn't there? Let's be honest. But no, I don't think there is. Like I say, it is what it is, and what will be will be. We can't choose whoever the manager's going to be, so whoever it is and comes in, I'm hoping that we can all just get behind them, just get
Yeah.
behind them, and just like pray
And
to
they
the
do what you
football
were talking
gods.
about. Just
Yeah,
bringing the fans together. Yeah.
and pray to the football gods, everybody. If we all pray at the same time, maybe it will work, because it never seems to work when I do it on my own. I pray to them many a times, telling them I do all sorts. Please, just let Tottenham do well, please, but it don't really work.
Football gods don't shine too kindly on Tottenham very often, let's be honest, but they'll give
They
us our
don't.
moment one day. Tell
Maybe.
us what's coming up on the channel. Yeah.
So I've got plenty of content out there. So if you guys can all just go over, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Go and give it all a watch, a like, and a comment. I'll do shorts as well. So give all of the content a watch, like every
Nice.
single piece of that content. Give that a watch for me, a like, and give it a comment as well, because it all just helps with like the algorithm. Really, I've got videos actually backed up that I've recorded and uploaded, but I haven't released because there's been so much content with the Conte stuff. So
Yeah,
I
right.
haven't actually I haven't actually released it. So I've got 2 or 3 videos actually I'm going to be
I know what you mean.
releasing at some point. It's to do with a bit of Tottenham history, a bit about our legends. I'm going to also try and do, when I need to record it, about the rivalry between us and Arsenal, which is like the history. I've got it's actually going to be one that's going to be a bit more edited, as in like I've got a few little things that are going to go into it that makes it like it's going to be quite good.
Nice.
I'm
Nice.
going to do like different subjects to do with it, so it's going to be that player, it's going to be goals that have been scored, all things like that. Just like, I know people obviously know maybe already, but it's just something else to watch, when you're feeling a bit like I don't want to hear the same old stuff again. It's nice just to have something a bit different, I guess, to watch.
No, I agree with you, and I also know what you mean by how this sort of crazy, chaotic mess that we're in right now definitely delays a lot of that. Definitely puts it on halt, or at least on delay. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm
But
going to have
Mia,
a day off. tomorrow I'm going to have an actual day off where I'm going to really try and not go on my computer. Unless we appoint a new manager, I'm not going nowhere near that computer tomorrow because I feel like I've been on it so much.
It's looking like Ryan Mason and Stellini we trust for right now, which does make me shudder.
I was trying to think of a joint name for them. I was trying to think of like no one their names.
Like Jason Statham,
yeah,
Statham, maybe
Statham.
Jason.
I was like,
sure.
what else? Malini. Yeah, I was thinking in the background, thinking what one really works. Like I was trying to figure out one out because we have to have
you
one.
hope they work together first before even the nickname starts working. You hope they work together first. That's the thing. But everybody head on over to Spurs Between the Lines, please. Show them some support. I'm going to put in the link one more time because, it's been a little bit kind of spaced out. So I'm going to put it in one more time. But Mia, thank you for getting me kicked off. Thanks for getting me warmed up. Thanks for, opening us up as always.
No worries. Take care of yourself.
Alrighty, you as well. See you soon, Mia.
See you soon. Bye.
Alrighty. Come on, you Spurs. See you soon, see you soon. I broke her up probably on the Come On You Spurs. Everybody, hit that like button while we're in here. And again, I'm going to run through the topics here quickly. If anybody who has joined us, of course, there's plenty of things I think to chat about. We have Davies out for 4 weeks. What does that mean for the left wing back situation, which already was a mess? Emerson also out for the season. The Poronator, is he the right man to come in? Also, if all Enoch and Levy really care about is top 4, then why is it that they trust Mason and Stellini to deliver it? Some people have also said to me, right, it's not maybe realistic to really bring in a manager for the last 10 games of the season. So let me know if you agree with that, or let me know if you think on kind of my end where it could have actually been possible had they maybe acted sooner on a situation, because we did see Bayern do it. So could we have maybe done it? But I know we obviously don't run at sort of the same efficiency and also with the same sort of, kind of same ruthlessness as Bayern do. That's for sure. And then also as well, are we better off or without Conte's coaching staff? Would you rather it just be Ryan Mason, or are you happier with it being Ryan Mason and Stellini is actually a better way to put it? Also Pochettino or Nagelsmann or someone else. Let me know, everybody, who's kind of on your mind to take over. And then Paratici, likely to go in the summer if you want to talk about him, the legacy of Paratici, because he's headed out the door, it looks like, as well. But let's bring on the next guest of the evening, and it is going to be Rufus. And then also as well after that, I'll let you know out loud, everybody, it's KPV, then Michael, then the one and only Brad Matthews. But let's bring on Rufus. Guten Abend.
Guten Abend.
But alles ist nicht gut.
No,
let's be honest.
It's not very good, is it?
What
here we are again. Just like Mia said, this is like here we are again on the merry-go-round of Tottenham.
It feels like every year we find ourselves like, I mean, we've only gone through the last manager to have lasted more than 18 months was Pochettino, basically. So we just sort of find ourselves in this 18-month or less than 18-month cycle here, Rufus, where we just start on over again.
The cheaper option would have just been to back Poch back then, but that's Daniel Levy for you,
As well, though, Rufus, maybe just speaking of Pochettino, the rumors are that Nagelsmann is the front runner right now. Before you get into, I know because you have some context as well as some stuff that you want to talk about with Nagelsmann, is it maybe the case that Daniel Levy is too proud to go back to Pochettino? Or does he maybe just fully more convinced by Nagelsmann, do you think? Because that's what I'm curious about. Like, maybe he would want to go back to Pochettino, but maybe he's too proud to go back to Pochettino.
I have to wonder why Pochettino would even want to come back, to be honest.
Yeah, that's also needs to be considered. We need to look at his wants and needs as well, right? And also, did you hear what I said earlier about the fact that we've actually spent like double, basically, what like over his tenure? I think we spent something like 190 million, but since he's left, we've spent something like 380 or whatever, like since he's left. So he could also look at the fact that like we spent a bunch of money after he left.
Yeah. I rest my case. It would have been just cheaper to back Pochettino with what he wanted back then.
Yeah. But then, with that in mind, though, like you just said, Darren, is that why Pochettino would also have a bit of resentment then for Spurs? Because he's just sort of like, geez, like you guys spent all that money.
Well, there was an interesting comment that somebody said that you posted up earlier. Would he want to come back?
No. I'd like to think that he does because he's hanging out in London and everything, but maybe the case is that he's not too keen right away.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen him make any statements or anything like that. So,
well, let's just get straight into it. Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen from the two is over here in Germany is Nagelsmann that said he is doing nothing before the summer.
Yeah, he's weighing up his options apparently right now, and he's going to be taking his time, taking in that payment from Bayern each and every week. Maybe go skiing in the Alps while the season is still there. Do whatever he likes.
But before everybody gets a semi about Nagelsmann, Tottenham making contact with Nagelsmann, and
yeah, let me know, because King Hoddle saying, Jacko, you know your German football. Are you Nagelsmann in? Are you Nagelsmann in?
No.
Yeah, let us know why.
He's too German. He's too German. He's got a very arrogant attitude. He split his dressing room, even though the team were doing well. I disagree with Mia, because Bayern haven't down tools. Their last 10 results show that, even though they got a split dressing room, they've hammered it the last 10 games.
But that speaks then, which is weird about it, right? The results. It's weird because I feel like he didn't lose the dressing room maybe as much as like an Ancelotti had at Bayern. But at the same time, the results, I think, were actually the reason he did get sacked, actually, Darren, because in the first season, he got knocked out of, I think, the cup, the Pokal, very, very early, I think, to Mönchengladbach. He also had some sort of weird results like in that beginning of the season. Also got knocked out by Villarreal in the quarterfinal. So he didn't exactly start off the first season like at all, like on any good terms. Like, in fact, he kind of started off the first season with a bit of a target on his back. So then in the second season, I actually think what was weird is he kind of was doing okay apart from maybe the league. But that's the thing, is that Bayern do expect to be winning the league by 8 or 9 points. They are that type of ruthless of a club.
And, you know, like you can sort of like it was just on the tip of my tongue there, and it just slipped off. He's gonna get nannied, you know. And that was the problem at Bayern. He was nannied at Bayern. He's not 100% in control at Bayern. Bayern run themselves. The manager is just a little part. People have to understand he's only one little part of what's going on there. It's a big machine, and it has been for a long time. And he's not done well with being nannied, and then he's going to walk into another club where he's going to get nannied again. I mean, this is the thing though, like, let's be honest, like, it's not an easy place, Bayern, because you do have guys breathing down your neck over there. Because I even remember actually Hansi Flick like said something, forget what he said actually auf Deutsch, but like he said basically something to like Salihamidzic in the middle of a bus on their way back from a game. He said, like, do you ever shut the fuck up, basically. Like, and this is, happened with the previous manager, right? Where Hansi Flick, who I think is actually probably, in my opinion, maybe even better manager than Nagelsmann, is also kind of have a bit of a bust up with the hierarchy, kind of like Nagelsmann had. And so it also could be the case that Bayern hierarchy, they are known for kind of just being very high efficiency. But with that, they're sort of like breathing down the manager's neck, and the manager might not like that with having guys like Oliver Kahn, Salihamidzic, all those guys like just sort of all over them, basically, and not letting them feel like it's their club, right? It's probably a lot more severe by Bayern than it is by Tottenham, but Tottenham is very similar.
Mm-hmm. But in a different way. I feel like it's Levy that's more breathing down your neck instead of like former players and like things like that.
And his little spies and his little creeps. And
because we know that Bayern are run like a tightly run ship, and they are run probably more properly, whereas like Spurs, that's not the case. So maybe in Bayern,
he was described by the managing director of Bayern as the perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't, because he's quite arrogant, he's quite snide. He's got a certain character that some German people have. And when we were in the back room at the beginning, one of your comments that stuck with me right to this moment was, yeah, he'd have to change that if he came to the Premier League. And he's German, he's not going to change. They don't even change their fashion, mate. Once they decided on a fashion, they wear it for life. You know that. You've been over here. You know, it's like, he's not going to change. And if Tottenham fans are actually ready for post-match interviews of comments like, we lost because we deserve to lose, I've got nothing more to say. Yeah, that is a very German answer.
Yeah, we're into our first Champions League semi-final. Maybe, just maybe, we drink a beer afterwards.
No, he is also, though, like, I do remember his initial interview with Bayern, that because I tried to watch these interviews to practice my German and whatnot, and I do remember him being like exceptionally dull, like in his interview. This is
really
another.
dull. He's done his dishwater.
He's not a Klopp, like you and I were saying. He's not a Klopp, and to be honest, Tuchel has more personality than he does as well. Like,
I didn't want Tuchel because I didn't like his personality.
So what is it then, though? Is it more off the field reasons? Do you think that he was sacked then, or was it more on? It was. So would those off the field things you think would carry on to Spurs? You think like
it was off the field, and as far as the German press over here are concerned, Bayern pulled the trigger because Tottenham were sniffing around Tuchel a bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
Bayern did what Tottenham need to do sometimes. It's like you identify your target, you go out and you get it.
What do you make of the fact that I don't know, I sort of said that maybe Spurs could have hired a manager for the last 10 games of this season. Some people kind of think it's a bit unrealistic. I could see what the good points they made, why it'd be unrealistic, because what manager would come into this dumpster fire, Rufus, and want to fix it, as well as also be under the cosh for anything that were to go wrong. Let's say the manager comes in, doesn't get top four, all of a sudden are kind of on the next manager's neck, right away. It sort of is, right, a tricky situation.
I said this in the WhatsApp group a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bit of a long discussion, and the truth is, we just have to be realistic. We're not going to win anything with ENIC.
And
we're not going to win anything with ENIC. End of discussion. It's just simple. We're not going to win anything while ENIC are here, so we might as well get a manager that can at least work with ENIC, and that would be Poch.
Do you think we need more of a yes man?
I'd rather go out there and get another super elite manager, but we've shown we're not going to back them. We're not going to. Levy is never going to toe the line of what that manager wants. He's always going to be fiddling, micromanaging.
Yeah.
Getting his little tiny screwdrivers out and having a little fiddle here and a fiddle there.
Like you said, they're kind of similar to Bayern with how Levy will breathe down the manager's neck, but kind of in all the wrong ways, maybe than probably Bayern do to a degree. Yeah. But I also feel like it's an interesting one with Nagelsmann because he is still young and he still has a lot to learn and is still probably the best and up and coming manager sort of his generation and of his sort of age group. But does Spurs then make sense for his next job? Or do you think Spurs is too big a job? Do you think for him, Rufus? You just seem to think that a lot of this off the field stuff will carry on, it feels like, yeah.
Before anybody jumps down my throat, he is a good manager. You touched on it, that he can be a bit gung-ho.
I'm actually a bit worried about that because I think he's a bit too gung-ho, at least for me.
Don't really have unless Daniel Levy has identified the targets, we don't really have a defence to play that gung-ho football at the moment. And then the biggest problem for me is Paratici really needs to go now, and we really need to get a director of football in now. That is something we need to do now, so that we're ready for the summer.
I'm with you there.
So, what are we going to do? Like, get to the summer, sack Paratici, then end up in August with a new manager, and like
that. Actually, I think is what's going to happen.
About, are you going to sign?
I think that's what's going to happen. Actually, Rufus, is he's going to be out of job.
I've got a horrible feeling. I've got a horrible feeling in my waters, as my gran used to say.
I think we are going to wait till the end of the summer to sack him, but I think we are going to be sacking him. But we are going to wait till the end of the summer. We are going to just.
That's going to be really shit because then would you go out and spend loads of time scouting loads of players and making loads of phone calls and setting up loads of deals, knowing your time's done?
Yeah, I wonder what he's doing then. Is he just like football manager then? Is he just hanging out?
Wasn't he supposed to be staying with Conte when Conte was over here? Weren't they supposed to be staying together? I read somewhere.
Perhaps they're both on gardening leave at the moment. They're just enjoying some nice, some Negronis and just.
That's the one that really frightens me. The fact that we might have Paratici as director of football at the moment, but it might not actually be doing anything.
Yeah, that it is infuriating because
we
it
have
does
got
speak. Yeah,
glaring holes.
yeah. Ian Cook says here, Rufus, hi, Jack. How you doing, mate? Well, another manager gone. Some of these players have let him down. It's a joke, but this is Spurs. Levy out, Ian out. Member for 13 months as well, Ian. You absolute legend. We appreciate that. And Ian, come on and have your say, my friend. Come on and speak with me, especially this Friday, too, if that works better for you, Ian. Come on and have your say. Thank you for the support. But he's just saying another manager basically suffering the same fate, Rufus. Do you feel like... What you feel like the next manager? I know you sort of more or less said it, but you feel like whether it be Nagelsmann, Pochettino, they're more likely to suffer some of the same consequences, some of the same sort of conditions and sort of antics from Levy that the last one did. So is that why you want Poch then, Rufus? Because he just knows Levy better than the others?
Not only does he know Levy better than the others, I think the fans will give him a little bit more leeway. They'll give him a little bit more of a chance. Look, if Nagelsmann comes in and he has a horrific start to the season,
it feels like Nagelsmann is bringing the fans together more right now because more of the fans.
Yeah. It's like I think he's probably the fans' favorite at the moment. I have to disagree, but I live in Germany, so I see it a bit different because they only see the Nagelsmann on the back pages of the papers. The
Hugo Boss ads.
Out his arse, he's this, he's that. But like they don't get the gist of it the whole time. I've got ultras living down and we sit there and watch the magazine from Bundesliga together and have Freiburg. And we talk a lot about football. And no, he's a good manager. If I was like Nagelsmann, I would actually just look for another job in the Bundesliga because he's too German to do it anywhere else. He's one of those types. Like Strike from Freiburg. He couldn't do it anywhere else.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he's not going to.
Nobody else would put up with it.
I agree with you on. I think he does have a future elsewhere, but I agree with you that just some of his antics off the field, sort of, and some of his overall personality is maybe kind of going a bit missed. Like he painted a target on his own back with some of the players, with how he sort of had sort of issues with them. And then also he kind of has, gone into Munich. I heard, like, we all know about the thing with the magazine built, reporter or whatever that happened. Also, apparently he was driving very fancy cars, like around Munich as well, like a bit sort of just seemed to get a big head at, like, I guess when he went to Bayern. And that was also part of the reason, was just supposedly he wasn't behaving and acting like a Bayern manager. That's what I heard from, I think it was from Raphael Honigstein, said basically that he wasn't behaving like a Bayern manager should. And that was also part of the reasons. But these are all weird off the field stuff, Rufus. So that's why it's hard to know, like, how much of that carries over to the next job that he has. Does he learn from this?
But the strange thing is Bayern fans are not really sort of like boo-hoo or he's gone or that's the wrong choice or the club. It's just sort of like, yeah, okay, move on.
Yeah. Well, Rufus, anything else you want to chat about here? Do you want to talk about maybe what else would you like to chat about here? What other topics are on your mind?
The left wing. The question about the left wing.
Yeah. So Davies, are you as worried as I am with him being out for the rest of the season? Or I don't know. He's out for a month, I think, Ben Davies, actually. And then Emerson is out for the rest of the season, actually.
But a month is almost with our medical staff. A month is the rest of the season. Because he's not going to come back in a month with our medical staff. They need to sack a lot of them.
Is it Perisic? What's the best option for the next month? Perisic and Longley, Sessegnon and Longley, Charlie Sawyers and Longley. Like, do you just go for something from the youth team?
Isn't it really strange that after last summer we were like left sorted? The left sorted. Perisic, right. The only thing that really concerned us was the left back, and it was like, and then we got Longley in, and we were like, yeah, that's sorted. And all the discussion was on the right hand side, and probably the side that's actually caused us the most hassle this season has been the left.
I agree. That's just all of a sudden flip flopped.
Huh?
it's all of a sudden switched where the left-hand side, I agree, in the beginning of the season we thought was the most solid. We had the defensively solid Sessegnon and the attacking Paratici. Now all of a sudden Sessegnon can't do anything, and Paratici we all know is useless defensively. And and then we have the opposite on the right-hand side with Porro and Emerson. I agree. It's ridiculous.
Shame about Emerson. Gutted.
Do you believe that Porro can? Porro, I feel like this is an opportunity for him to win the fans over. You would think, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's a good chance for him to. Gareth Bale back in the day. You know, you're giving you a chance through injury, and you have to take it, don't you? Sometimes you have to grab the bull by the horns, as they say. And Pedro Porro, being a Spanish, he's probably quite used to grabbing the bull by the horns. But yeah, it's. I wish him well, but the funny thing is between the two, one's good going forward and one's good going backwards. So it's like we've never really got the perfect, because we can't play them both at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It's like they've both got attributes I'd like to see the other display.
Just speaking to Spaniards, would you agree with Sean? Bring back Reguilón from loan. I kind of would. Like I've always been a bit of a supporter of Reggie. Would you bring back Reggie? Because the left-hand side is so terrible right now. Yeah, I think you can. Like he's just coming back straight. It's just whether you want to sell him on.
Yeah, I mean, the selling him on point is quite good, because if you bring him back, they might say, "Well, we're not going to buy him now."
I think he's worth keeping, actually, Reguilón. I think he's not a bad player, actually, especially if we were to play back four. I think he is worth probably keeping, actually. But I don't know. It's also just because Paratici, like I said, useless defensively. Sessegnon, I think, needs to go completely. And then that leaves us left with basically only Udogie or I guess Ben Davies. But a lot of us do feel like Ben Davies needs to go too. So I feel like Reguilón, maybe we could just sort of have as a bit of a stopgap, because it is hard to do 1,000 moves in one summer, so it feels like Reggie could be.
I would rather the one player. When I heard the news, I got the news. I was literally online, and then just a notification popped up, and it's like the statement from Tottenham, and I just thought Jed Spence just went to the fridge and got a bottle of champagne out and cracked it.
It's hilarious.
And actually, I'd rather bring Jed Spence back than Reguilón and try him on the left.
I'm not going to get on Jed Spence's case too much, because I'm already in hot water with that guy, because I put a video about how he's struggling. But I do think he's looked unconvincing at Rennes, in my opinion. When I've watched back some of his games, he's looked a bit unconvincing.
So did Reggie sometimes.
It's also hard, though. Like, yes, so is Reggie. So I'm a huge hypocrite there. One more question for me, Rufus, and then I do got to let you go and get to KPV here. But Rufus, do you feel like we're better off with Ryan Mason in charge, or are we better off like with the skeletal remains of Conte's coaching staff still here? Like, what do you make of that? Like, that basically Stellini still here, Conte's brother is still here, like all these guys from his coaching staff like are still here. Is that a good thing, or would it have been better just to have a clean break and just have Ryan Mason take charge for the rest of the season?
Do you remember that guy we got in the summer, the free kick specialist, the set piece specialist? Everybody was raving about him.
Gianni Villa. Yeah,
we get a refund.
Yeah, I'd keep him. He's been
great. We haven't improved.
I think we have. I think we've been great from set pieces this season, honestly. At least better than what we used to be. We used to not have a clue, Rufus. We used to not have a clue.
True.
Now we at least look like we have an idea of what we're doing. Like, even if we fail, at least we're trying something now. Like, felt like before we weren't even trying anything. Like, we just genuinely didn't know what the hell we were doing.
In the middle of the box.
I do agree though with some of the criticism of Gianni Villa, where it was like he has 1,000 different attacking set pieces, but he doesn't have one for like defending set piece, which does seem a bit funny.
Yeah, maybe that has something to do with the memory capacity of football players.
No. But I don't know. Maybe you can only. Maybe that's just how football is. You can just be super specialized in one single area. Well, do you trust them to get top four then? Last question for me, Rufus. Do you trust them to get top four? Stellini and Mason, or is it over? Season's over.
I don't know. We did have a bit more spark under Stellini, even though everybody says Conte was on the telephone the whole time. I don't know. Maybe with Conte gone, look. My biggest thing with Conte is he never committed to the job. He only came for 6 months originally, and the rest was an option, and blah 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 blah. He's never really committed, and that was my biggest problem with him until he blew up. And I think Mia had a good point about the money and that everything goes like that. And maybe he was disappointed after January or stuff. But I just think in general, he never really committed to the club ever. There was always, how often have we discussed on there, will he stay, will he go, will he stay, will he go?
Yeah.
And how can the club back a manager that I think that's the difference in my head between him and Poch. Not backing Poch. That was just silly. Not backing Conte. Conte didn't really ever commit, and Poch did. If you know what I mean.
Do you feel like well, Derek Smith brought up earlier, Rufus. Maybe I know I keep saying last question, but you keep getting me onto different light bulbs. But do you feel like he said something about it? He said Derek Smith said something about like how the next manager needs to like show commitment. Like he needs to sort of say like, I'm here for a long while. I'm here to turn this all around and sort of thing. Like he said, basically a manager on like a 4 or 5+ year contract is what we need basically for the next one. Do you agree with that? Or do you feel like, I don't know. I do kind of see where he's coming from, where all the manager turnover is almost a bit nauseating at this stage.
I would have much rather gone out now and got Poch and put it to bed.
Yeah.
Than wait until the summer while everybody's sniffing around and everybody's start sniffing around the Madrid job. And then you also don't know what other clubs are going to sack their manager at the end of the season, what other big jobs are going to come up available.
Yeah.
Like it's a bit like signing a player sometimes. And what Tottenham's biggest fault is we don't pull the trigger quick enough. And then 6 months later, we watch that player join another club that didn't have a place for him. And I think that could be the problem with the manager. And I don't want to go through that.
No.
That summer after Mourinho again, where like we literally get into the end of the transfer window before we even knew that we had a manager. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
I'm also just worried about the recruitment this summer because, like you said, with Paratici, like he's likely getting sacked. But are we really looking for replacements right now? You'd like to hope so, but we probably aren't. And then in the case of obviously the new manager, obviously Nagelsmann is weighing up his options, so that's not good. So you don't even know what manager you'll get in.
In which case, I'd have just brought Poch in, just to get the stability going before the summer, because in the summer, it could, if the right jobs come up, you might not get Poch or Nagelsmann. Yeah. Like Mia said, you might end up with Potter. His little magic wand.
Rufus. Hopefully I get to speak to you Friday. Maybe Jacob can also inform us a little bit on Nagelsmann.
See if I can get him over. I'll have a chat and see if I can get him over.
Yeah, I'd love to get his opinion on Nagelsmann as well. Maybe even just have him send me a voice note or something on Nagelsmann. I'd just be curious. That way I can practice my German further too. Maybe you and I can exchange.
His view's not much different than mine, I can tell you. This didn't come from me.
I like it. But Rufus, great chat, my friend, as always.
All right, dude.
Take care. See you, brother. All right. Gute Nacht. Bis bald. See you soon.
Bis bald.
Everybody, big up Rufus. Good chat with him. I kind of come on his sort of end on things. Like, I'm not as a bit of a Nagelsmann skeptic, but I also do see things from a lot of the context of somebody who watches a lot of Bundesliga and does know a bit about his sort of rise and also a bit of his sort of fall at Bayern. And I would say I have a bit of my reservations, let's say. I do think he's probably the second or third, maybe best guy that we have maybe available to choose from. But I could see why maybe people like Rufus has some of their reservations. Let's just say that. A lot of good people in the chat, though. It's good to see you, John Stokes. I didn't get to say hello to you in person, but it's good to see you, my friend. We also have the likes of Eamon Burns. Hopefully you're keeping well. Ireland only lost just 1-0. Looks like they put up a good performance. Maybe Dave was entertained, or maybe it was just a dreadful 1-0 loss. But I imagine, against a team like France, like what do you really expect? So good performance nonetheless, I imagine. I guess we'll hear from it later from Dave. But we have Catman Jess in the house as well. Good to see you, Catman, and the one and only Wolf Maller. Good to see you, Wolf. And then we have a very good comment from Midnight Garden I want to get to later. But we have KPV that we're going to get to, everybody. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Mr. KPV, it's time for him. Hello.
Hello.
What are we thinking, KPV? It's Nagelsmann is the trend. Davies and Emerson are out for a long, long time. Where do you want to start?
Well, it looks like we're just going to have Poro for the rest of the season. Like, Emerson was in form for the last few games. Goal against West Ham. Brilliant assist from Højbjerg to Davis and to Royale to win the game. And then we beat Chelsea a week later, 2-2 wins at home. No goals conceded. And now we lose someone who we bought from Barcelona, who they were laughing off 25 million, and Emma Goat is out. I know Cody ain't going to be happy because he's got an Emma Goat shirt. Barry's not going to be happy about it. So now who's going to be man of match for the rest of the 10 games? Who's going to be man of match in the game?
Do you trust in, is it Stellini and Mason we trust, or are you skeptical of them, KPV? And then also, just quickly, KPV, with Conte's coaching staff still here, would you rather it just be Ryan Mason to lead us for the next 10 games, or are you all right with his coaching staff staying behind?
I'm all right with his coaching staff. Like Stellini, I think, yes, gotta be, because someone in the chat on Real Tottenham TV yesterday said that they called it, like, when he was covering for Conte for the part of the season, we were unbeaten under him. He hadn't lost a game. Like, the Premier League, I don't think he was covering in the Premier League, because before that, like, we were winning games. Marseille, we won, and Conte came back.
He's won some big games for us, you're right.
Yeah, he won some big games. Like the Marseille game, I think it was the reason why Conte missed that Marseille game because of what happened a few weeks ago at home against Sporting when we were robbed. Like, it touched the Sporting Lisbon player's arm. Like, people can watch the highlights of it. I've been watching on YouTube, and Højbjerg told the ref he wasn't going to shake his fucking hand. So, big up, Zinedine Salzburg, you didn't shake his hand, because that referee was at the World Cup for Spain, Germany, and I said to Ben and Barry, I think they were doing a vlog, said, is that the referee who robbed us against Sporting? And it was. And like,
yeah, no, he's shocking. I remember. He was smiling after the game as well, KPV, after
offside. Like, Dom, I don't want to see him. Someone on Twitter had it as their profile picture. Must have been a Spurs fan. Like, I don't want to see that picture of that referee again, because he robbed us, and I still don't like him. So if he's managing, if he's going to be refereeing any of our games in the Premier League, like, someone needs to sign a petition, like for the Sporting Lisbon game. Sign the petition, people.
King Huddle's saying here, PV, who let Conte out? Conte did. Do you feel like did Conte sack himself? Do you think?
Who let Conte out? Well,
did he sack himself with kind of his interview?
It's got to be, Conte let himself out. Like, the comment he made about our players being selfish, I don't like it. Like, Tim said it yesterday. He didn't like what Conte said, like calling the player selfish. Like,
should he have been more specific? Should he have only told the players personally? What do you think?
Oh, Israel, is that Marlon? Is that Israel?
I think it's Amir Sardar. If you know him.
Big up, Amir. Big up, my man.
And then also Zoe saying, "Big up Kane PV."
Kane PV, yeah, because #record.
I need you to speak to Mr. Harry Kane KPV, because it looks like at the moment he's now leaning towards probably not staying with Spurs, but it's hard to blame him, right?
Yeah, I don't blame the guy. He wants to leave. He did say he was opening to staying because he'd love to work under Nagelsmann, but looks like he's changed his mind in the last 9 seconds. He don't want to stay. Like,
he's got 10 more games. Maybe we can still convince him, KPV.
Yeah, we can still convince him. I said on Elias's channel last night that Daniel Levy needs to do his job and bring Poch back before the weekend, before the Everton game next Monday. That's the last Premier League game of the weekend, which is Monday next week. So that will be after WrestleMania, so I'll be busy for the weekend, and so I've got a busy weekend ahead. So
Are you what do you think then, KPV? Do you feel like Stellini and Mason, are they capable of top 4, or do you feel like top 4 is well and truly off, like you just don't trust Spurs to finish inside top 4?
I trust Stellini can do it because, like, if we get top 4, then Conte's going to say he's got a top 4 in 2 seasons. Like, no, you didn't. You got it last season, but this season, like, he left with us in 4th place. So, but not at the end of the season, you didn't get us top 4. It was Stellini because the Italian job. But he got us top 4 at the end of last season, bringing in Kulu and Bentancur as Mr. Box Office calls them rejects. Like, I know he's watching. He's probably heard it. I've said it before, but they're the 2 players that got us top 4 last season, and Newcastle beat Arsenal. So that was after they lost to us the previous week. They lost to us, and people are going to ask us what's our favourite game under Conte, and they know the answer. 2 games they're going to ask what's our favourite 2 games under Conte: Man City away and the North London derby. The atmosphere in that North London derby, I didn't go, I was in a pub watching it, but Ben and Sim went and Danny went, and so
I bet it was something special. I went to the West Ham game against the Bubble Blowers, the 3-1 win last season as well, KPV. That was absolutely epic, and that was the Conte game too.
Yeah, you went. I watched it as well, and every time Ronaldo scores against West Ham, he always gets abused, and so people just block these West Ham fans because it's their cup final. They just can't beat us there. They've only got 1 win, and that was under Poch when we won that Champions League final. Only 1-0, only 1 win, and Antonio doing that celebration still annoys me. So
KPV though, Paratici, just quickly, I forgot to ask you this. He's headed out as well by the looks of things. Is the Italian revolution over, do you think, at Spurs? Conte gone, Paratici gone. Who knows? Stellini, right, is probably out the door as well. The Italian project is over.
I've got that Italian shirt because I won the quiz. I think it was the Brighton game we lost 1-0. Ben and Henry White were doing the watch along, and I got the shirt. And so cheers, Ben, from your Tottenham team for giving me the shirt. I've still got it. And the Italian job, well, Stellini isn't getting sacked afterwards because, he isn't getting sacked because he covered for him. But, well, if he goes...
Are you sad to see the Italian project over, KPV, or do you want to move on to a different one?
I'm sad to see it go because Stellini was doing bits. Conte was still recovering, but we lost Sheffield United and Wolves. AC Milan at home, we didn't lose, we drew, but should have at least got a goal. But then what does Conte do? Take off Kulu when we need a goal, and you bring on Sanchez. Come on. You don't take off the ginger from Sweden. I heard we could be risk of losing him if we don't get top 4. He said he wants to stay, so he's already going to be a player permanently when the window opens, so we can sign him. But yeah, you don't take him off at home against AC Milan when we need a goal, and we lost away for the first time against them, and we drew at home. So they were lucky because this AC Milan team has been poor.
It did feel like that was his sackable offense to a degree, was taking off Kulusevski.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
You don't take off my boy Kulu. Kulu wants to stay. And
do you feel like Kulusevski has said he wants? Do you feel like Kulusevski, Romero, Bentancur, all these guys? Do you think they're going to stay here for a long time and stay here through the next managers, KPV, or do you think they're already becoming a bit sort of disillusioned with Spurs?
I hope they stay, but I think Ben and Sim and David said that if we don't win anything, they won't want to stay. But we want to win a trophy for next season, and we want to win one. But maybe Nagelsmann could help us. But I think the fans want Poch because, David has mentioned it. He wants to give Poch a second chance, and that's what I want. Give him a second.
Why do you want Poch instead of Nagelsmann? Is just want to give him a second chance?
Yeah, I want to give him a second chance. The football under him was brilliant. The best defensive record for a few seasons, Toby and Jan. Like when Toby came in 2015, like Jan wasn't gonna start. But Toby and Jan were probably the best centre-back partnership in league has ever seen in the Prem. Like people gonna say we are in Vidic, but nah, sorry, Brian Daigle, mate. That has been taken over by Toby and Jan. So you say that all you want, Brian Daigle, but that's already been taken over by Toby and Jan.
Can he get a new pair of center backs like Toby and Jan? Do you feel like he'll be able to get new center backs, Pochettino, or will he have to use Dyer and those guys for the next season? Or Nagelsmann even? It doesn't really matter. Like, do you expect Dyer and those guys to go?
I expect new center backs to come in. Like Bastoni, I think is not going to stay because he's not going to sign a new contract, but he already done it before the start of this season. But he's in the last year and he's available, I think. But Perisic is going to return back there and he's going to do it. So I expect new defenders coming in, like centre backs is what we need. Get rid of that defence apart from Romero, who's better. Like
I think Pochettino and Nagelsmann, in order to succeed KPV, they need new center backs, they need a new goalkeeper, they need a lot of stuff back there in order to actually have their system work and actually be successful. Especially Lloris, I think, needs to be replaced and everything. So they're going to need a lot in order for their systems to even work.
Yeah, they're going to need a lot for this to even work. Like goalkeeper-wise, maybe. Like Dean Henderson, I really want because Brian Daigle has been mentioning it. He wants Dean Henderson because
even though he celebrated winning after he saved the pen against us.
He got lucky because he only got lucky wearing a hat. Like goalkeepers have been wearing hats in the past, but Dean Henderson got lucky wearing a hat.
Is it a concern that Keylor Navas has come in ahead of him though too, KPV, right? Like they did bring in a goalkeeper ahead of Dean Henderson.
Yeah, they brought him, but I think Navas is only playing for Nottingham Forest because Henderson is injured. Maybe that's why he's playing.
Maybe you're right.
So, but he should be back, I think, soon. But they've still got to play Man United, I believe. But Hendo can't play because he's on loan. But the rules say you can't play a parent club. Like Cancelo's going to play against Bayern, against Man City. So lucky for some, like the Champions League because he's on loan there. But you can't play against the parent club if you're on loan at a new club in the Premier League. So lucky for some. But he got lucky saving that penalty because Kane never missed a penalty in the Premier League since that Liverpool game when Wanyama scored a banger and Kane should have put us 2-1 up, but they had Karius in goal, Liverpool, who finally saved one, but from Kane, and we should have been 2-1 up. Then Liverpool go 2-1 up. They were claiming for handball, but Salah put them 2-1 up, and then
you just try to flex the quiz knowledge, KPV, from the minutes. Last question for me, KPV. Last question here. What do you give? What do you think for Spurs this weekend? Is it just going to be losing ways? Is it going to be winning ways? What do you make of it? Because I feel like the Spurs players, KPV, and this is my last question to you. The Spurs players, are they already on the beach, or are they going to kind of turn it around and actually start winning games and try to finish in top 4?
They're going to start winning games and finish in the top 4, and that's what we want. We don't want to finish.
You don't think they're already on the beach, maybe?
Yeah, they're probably already on the beach, and we want to just finish in the top 4 ahead of Liverpool, Chelsea, let's be honest, Chelsea are not going to make top 4 because their season has been shocking. Like, they've been shocking anyway. They can't beat us. They can't beat City. They can't beat Arsenal or Liverpool. They've still got to play Man U, Arsenal, and Liverpool. So, and City, obviously. But yeah,
I hope we get to finish above Chelsea this season,
finish above
KPV.
them.
That'll be a good feeling. Something we actually haven't done in a while, let's be fair. But
2018 under Poch was the last time we finished above Chelsea. 2018, the season when Salah was at Liverpool, and we beat them at the Bridge. That was the last time we finished above them, but they still won the FA Cup. Conte was still gone after that. So that was
king of the quiz, KPV.
So,
I love
yeah, I
that.
just want to finish above them, like, because I don't think every time they win stuff, they always finish above us. So we just want to finish above them, and like we finished above Arsenal, but they've still got to play City and Chelsea, Liverpool, and Newcastle. So hopefully they can lose. A few of them will finish above them again, but I just don't like them. So Newcastle, Trippier, please beat them again because they've not won at St James's Park for God knows how long. So Trip, I know you're watching, my man. Please beat them again and stop them from getting top 4 because you've done us a favour and so please.
We also need them to fall against us because we got big game against Newcastle coming up as well, away from home. KPV.
Kane loves scoring against Newcastle. He always scores against them. So Son,
let's hope he does. Let's hope he does, KPV.
Well, there. And so anyway, I'm off.
Conte let the dogs out, KPV. He in fact let himself out with the dogs. So
he let the dogs out. Conte did, but it's not him anymore. It's Ellie, Queen Ellie Hoiberg. Get well soon, Ellie. Ellie let the dogs out. So anyway, I'm off to watch before WrestleMania enters this weekend, and I'll be watching the game against Everton. Like, we're away, but our record there isn't that bad actually. Like, a few draws there, but we've won there under Poch. It was 6-2, I believe it was. Yeah, we won.
Maybe Stellini can pull a masterclass against the dice. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, Conte's never lost to Everton, but this is Stellini now. We're gonna win at Everton. Like, we already beat them at home earlier in the season. Kane scored a penalty, but Charlton went off injured. But I hear he's not going to play.
Let's hope Big Richie can maybe get a goal for SKPV. Yeah, but great call as always, my friend. And we'll see you. We'll see you for the next one. We'll see you Friday, brother.
Next one. And as always, Levy out.
KPV in as well. You forgot the KPV in.
Everyone in.
Everyone in. Dig yourself up, KPV. Come on, you Spurs. See you soon, brother. Great call. Alrighty. Everybody, big up KPV. Honestly, there are too many times where he's just flexing the quiz knowledge, I think, just for fun here. But let's bring on the next guest of the evening. Let's keep this rolling, everybody. It's Michael, who's been waiting very patiently. Michael, let's bring you on. Let's have a good chat. How are
you? In life, fine. Sporting-wise, also fine.
Something happened. Spurs did eventually sack him. It took a week, but something did happen, Michael. I guess... We are in.
I'm not surprised it happened. I was a bit surprised by the hour and day. So
Sunday night.
It was Sunday night. It was really bizarre. But other than that, not surprised. As you know, I'm a bit sad. Not like strictly because it's Conte, right? But just because another manager didn't succeed at our club, right? And
another league manager made to look silly, made to look kind of stupid, and I know what you mean.
And we are still split as a fan base. Some people think it's because of X, some people think it's because of Y, and it's not a good time in general, right? I also don't have high hopes for the rest of the season. So it's sporting wise, it's a bit sad, right?
Do you think I'm unrealistic, Michael? I'll get you started off with this one. Do you think I'm unrealistic thinking a manager could come in for the last 10 games of the season, or is it possible that a manager could? the pros and cons of it, or basically the reason why some people say it wasn't realistic, is because Spurs are such a dumpster fire right now to go into. So why would basically any top manager want to just take the Spurs job right away, and like when they could just be assessing their options like come the summer, basically?
Yeah, I think
Could they have brought
if
someone in, or is that maybe
if
an explanation for why they didn't?
if we are talking about a manager who is currently at the job, so like Amorim, Glasner, who are like those type of guys, right? I think there is no incentive for them to come to us right now because they still have their own projects, their own like targets to fulfill, etc., 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 right? But in terms of managers who are currently not at the job, so like Pochettino, Nagelsmann now, I honestly think I understand why, especially in those two cases, like Nagelsmann and Pochettino, they would want to wait until summer to assess their options, right? Because it's highly likely that Real will sack Ancelotti and PSG will sack their manager most likely, right? So those are two more prestigious job and easier jobs than Tottenham, right? So I understand why they would want to wait until summer. But from our perspective, I think it would have been highly beneficial if we brought a manager in right now, because I feel like in a situation that we are currently in an ideal world, that would be a really nice like time to assess the squad for that manager, time to look at the situation. It's also kind of a free pass, in my opinion, because fans won't expect like anything, or they shouldn't expect anything from that manager if he was brought in right now, right? Kind of a similar situation to, in my opinion, what happened with Ten Hag at United. It wasn't 10 games, it was 3 games, and he wasn't like a manager, right? Because he was in the stands, but still he was already contracted to United. And he was there in the stands watching the team, assessing the situation, looking at tactical issues, etc., etc., right? So I feel like it would be beneficial for us if we brought a manager in right now. But I understand why it's not like
I think we could do what
plausible and
Mia
possible,
or
right?
whoever brought up earlier, right? Yeah, like in what you were saying, where it's like we could maybe bring in a manager that is officially taking the job in the summer, but would be nice if they did get to watch like the last 5 or 6 games of the season and
Yeah.
were kind of seeing over the players, and did also get to see firsthand, the mistakes that this defense makes, and they get to see like the hell that they're about to go into. That would be kind of nice. I don't want them to. This is where I get frustrated, Michael, because I don't want the next manager to sort of give all the players a clean slate, give them that 3 or 4 months where everybody's on the same playing field, and we kind of just go through the same torture once again, where like the next manager figures out all the same things that the last manager did, but it takes a while, and we're like the whole time just praying that this doesn't happen again, but it does. And that's where it just sort of, I agree with you. I think the best way it could happen for us to prevent that sort of scenario is to bring in a manager right now that couldn't see it firsthand, the situations that can be changed. But maybe the next alternative is sort of to, over this 10-game period, to convince a Nagelsmann, to convince a Pochettino, to convince a whoever that they're going to be the guy that's taking over in the summer, and probably be wise of you to be watching some Spurs games for the rest of the season, so you know what you're getting into. I agree with you.
I also think if a manager comes in and they do, like, what's the saying, their due diligence properly, right? They have plenty of examples and material on not only this season but from previous seasons showing that this defense is not good enough, right? So I hope whoever comes in next like properly studies that defense and like points out the weaknesses, points out the mistakes, tries to fix it with transfers, with outgoings, etc., right? And again, as I said, I think that 10-game period, it would be kind of a free pass in both in our, but well, the issue is that it would be a free pass in our fan base eyes, but in our ownership's not exactly, right? Because we know that they care about top 4, right? We know that they want that they want to qualify for Champions League due to like money stuff, right?
That's why I'm confused.
So
Yeah, continue. Make your point. Sorry.
yeah, I think the reason why they stuck with Stellini and Mason is because they won't change the system. I think they will play exactly that. I mean, as formation wise, right? They will play exactly the same way that Conte did. So that because I know again. I'm not trying to defend Conte, whatever, right? I don't want to say I'm kind of happy that he's gone, but I understand why it happened, and I'm
Yeah.
honestly I prefer having a clean slate right now in terms of manager. So I understand why he left, but still, if you look at the numbers, we are fourth right now, right? I know it was ugly as fuck. I know nobody enjoyed watching Tottenham, right? But still, we are fourth.
There's still
So the
something to play for.
the best chance for this team to stay fourth is not to rapidly, change the tactics, throw everything over, start from scratch. But I think the best chance for us to achieve top 4, which is what our ownership cares about the most, right, this season, is to stick with the formation and the system that they played already, right? And let's be honest, Conte
Ryan Mason,
staff knows
probably.
exactly that how to play that formation, how to train, what are what are the steps necessary to play that formation properly, right?
So you think it is better to just, instead of just going to Ryan Mason and just leaving Ryan Mason in charge, it is better actually to have Stellini in charge instead of just it being Ryan Mason? Because
in our ownership's eyes, in my eyes, the best thing would be to appoint a manager right now, right? But I think I'm trying to like find a reason why the club decided on what they decided, right? So for me, it's because they care about top 4, and they assessed like the manager options that they have, and I think they came out with a conclusion that not changing the formation, the style, etc., is the most beneficial and the highest like percentage chance, of us ending up in top 4, right? Because if you look at the numbers, we are fourth, right? You cannot deny it. Again, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't enjoyable, right? But we are fourth. So I think that's why they didn't want to bring in someone like Poch, who would most likely try to switch to a back 4. I know Nagelsmann played the back 3 from time to time at Bayern, but still, I think like the way he applied that back 3 system was way different than Conte. So it would still be like it's a back 3, but it's a completely different system, right? In terms of how it plays. So, and other managers, as I said, they are in jobs currently. They wouldn't want to leave, and if they were to be persuaded to leave, then you would have to pay a lot of cash to those clubs and to those managers to convince them, right? So I just think they did the look at the accounting, look at the finances, and decided that it's the cheapest way and the most probable way of ending up in top 4. And I think that's the only reason why Mason and Stellini are still at the job, right? And I think the reason why Stellini is at the job, because I don't think that our players had that big of a problem with the system itself. I think it kind of got personal after those comments between Conte only Conte and the players, right? And the ownership.
They had less hate tactically. It was more just sort of personal. The goodbye.
So I think they just decided to get rid of Conte. Also, I don't think that Conte wanted to be here anymore. As we spoke last week about the whole Conte situation, I think what Conte did was kind of like a last ditch effort to either bring everyone on his side or like set the thing on fire and leave. I think it was like, I'm gonna lay down the truth. I'm gonna tell you what I think. I'm gonna no hesitation, pure facts. And if you decide to stick with me and support me, okay, we can work this through. And if you all get like upset and whatever, I'm leaving. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm leaving, right? You are not matching my ambition. All the talk that we had throughout like the past few months, right? I think it all culminated into that 1 week. That I think our club decided that he's like toxic to the club, and they decided to remove him. But again, I don't think it was a problem with the coaching staff, with the
Interesting.
system, etc. I don't think that our players, maybe they don't like it per se, but I think it's not that they, are so hell bent on it that they are willing to, change
Yeah.
the system completely, right?
What would you just quickly say to Wolf Maller here? He says a big factor, I believe, is Levy and the board feel they have loosened the purse strings for Conte and didn't pay off. They won't be that generous again. So when it comes to Pochettino, Nagelsmann, will they be willing to open the purse strings up again? Or do you think they are going to look at how it went with Conte and spending big, in their eyes, spending big? But I'll be honest,
listen,
also Spurs have spent, what was it? Spurs have spent, what is it? Like we saw double what they had under Pochettino. Like since he's left, they spent like 380 million. When Pochettino was here, they've spent 190 million or something. So it shows that they did change their act at least a little bit when it came to spending. But I don't know. It's an interesting one. Have they maybe gone? Are they going to go back on that, Michael? Or are they going to start spending less again?
I don't think they will. Maybe that's a bit of a hopeful thinking from me, but I think right now, if like touch wood, nothing major happens like COVID again, right? So you cannot account for that when you make predictions, right?
Yeah.
But if nothing like this happens, I think we are stabilized enough to spend like 100 millions per summer. I think we have the financial power to spend that kind of money.
We should.
If you look at financial reports, like spending 100 million or 80, 120, I don't think it will make a massive dent on our club. I think like the issue we face right now is that the fact that we have 250 million pounds of players on loans, and you have to get rid of those players. You have to either get rid of those players or incorporate them back into the team. But I think there are some surnames there that won't be incorporated again, right? I don't want to see Ndombele, Lo Celso, Winks, those type of guys. I think they've had enough time to get acclimatized to the team. That I am willing to give a guy like Reguilon a chance, for example, because I don't think that he was sent on loan because of like some major falling out or whatever, right? I have a feeling he was sent on loan because of like the homegrown status and squad numbers, and because you only can register 25 players as far as I remember, and we already had 2 wing backs, and one of them was homegrown in Sessegnon. I think that if Sessegnon wasn't homegrown, he would be the man on loan, and Reguilon would have stayed at the club, right? So, and of course, like Spence, Udoji, those guys, they
I think Brian Hill hopefully could have a chance under the next manager. You like to think is like that sort of Kulusevski alternative. Michael, the other question I actually want to ask you though is this one, because this one I think is a great comment from Midnight Garden, and I feel like I'm wondering if you agree with me that it could be, I don't know if it'd be seen as an unpopular opinion from him here, but it is something that we probably don't want to think about as Spurs fans. The Spurs job, he says here, is not a big opportunity as of right now. The club is in disorder and have sacked 3 elite managers back to back to back. It's going to take some convincing to get someone special in. Do you feel like, while we think Spurs deserve obviously the best and most elite managers, and we want the best and most elite managers, is it probably the case that from the outside, Michael, that it doesn't look very attractive to the elite managers Spurs?
Yes and no, in my opinion, because
tell me why.
I think yes, I agree that we are a shit show, right? Our club is a complete shit show right now, right? We have our main star striker probably leaving in a year, most likely. I don't think he will leave this summer. I think he will leave next summer. We have, and like our stars, I would say, are aging in Kane and Son. Our defense is in shambles. Our fan base is split. There are issues with our ownership. So if you look at it from like that perspective, I think the club is a shit show, and it would take a lot of work to stabilize it again. But why I said like the other part is, I think that our club, we are still one of the biggest clubs in the world. We are still one of the richest clubs in the world. I think we are spending like maybe not enough money or not in the right places, but I think we have the potential to spend enough money to fix the squad quite quickly. I don't think it would take because I think I spoke with David about this. I'm not sure. I think you
tell me about it. What
weren't
were you
there,
saying?
Jack. But I think what I brought up was that we cannot do a United, right? We cannot spend 250 million in one summer and fix it with 4 world-class players like United did last summer, right? Or 3 world-class St. Anthony, right? But what we can do is instead of fixing it in a one window, I think we can fix it over 3 windows, right? So summer, winter, summer. I think we have the financial power and stability to spend in all 3 windows, like we've been proving for past 2 years. I know it's not a lot of spending, but I think it's enough spending to do that, right? So from that point, I think our club is fixable with in terms of squad, right? And I think with good football and proper squad comes the unity in fan base. I think if we as fan base see the progress and we see hope and and something to cheer for, I think the fan base will be united, right? And finally, I think, listen, I think if you want to be a top coach, you have to put challenges in front of yourself, right? Because let's be honest, winning League One with Paris Saint-Germain is not a challenge, right? I think some of us with enough practice could probably lead that PSG squad to win Ligue 1, right? But I think that winning a trophy at Tottenham, and again, it's hopeful thinking from me and maybe a bit of an idealistic way to look at things. But I think there are some managers who would take pride with bringing us our first trophy in over a decade, right? So I think from that perspective, I think our club can be a nice challenge for many managers, but but it won't be a challenge for someone like Conte because they don't have enough patience and time to do that, right? I hope that he would do that, but it's too unstable, right? But for a young manager, in my opinion, like Nagelsmann, Almorim,
they
someone
might be up
of
for
that
the challenge, hungry for the challenge.
I think, and they also won't mind if they spend 3 to 4 years, in my opinion, in our club, right? Because look at Nagelsmann, he's what, 35 or 36, right? So even if he spends next 4 years here, he's still 10 years younger than Pochettino is right now, right? So I think they can spend that time. So I agree. I agree and disagree with the comment that you highlighted, right?
And the point that I was going to bring up that I have said in a debate show just recently, actually, I think it was on Thursday, where it's just Spurs have started to spend more money. I think I'd be happy if they did spend even more money. I think that would solve some of our issues. But at the same time, Michael, I am of the belief that no one deserves to be spending the second or first most money in the league. There's only one club or a few clubs that are in that bracket. It's just how it is. It's a privileged few that are able to spend as much as they do. The thing is, though, is that every club, including us, especially us, I think at least deserves some competency with how the money is spent. We don't deserve 300 million in a summer. But if we are given 150 million, we should be able to do better with that than what we have in the past. And we should be able to do something that is more significant with the money that we have at our disposal. And that's where it's yes, we could use more money. That would be nice. But I think more than more money is just more competency. We just need more competency with how we spend it. And we need more competency with the direction and how we spend it, with who we're spending it on, who we're spending it for, which manager and whatnot. And also bringing in, I think, more players like Romero and whatnot, who can actually live out beyond different managers, who are just good enough for almost any manager that comes in here. That's another
thing.
Like
Kulusevski, like Bentancur, like Bissouma, probably, right?
Do we deserve players, another 300 million? I don't know. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to get another 300 million, but I don't know if we deserve that. I think what we do deserve, though, is more competency with how we spend the money. Yeah.
So, what basically I wanted to say, right? Let me give you 2 scenarios, right? Imagine we have 150 million for that summer, right? Upcoming summer. But one scenario is with our current squad. Imagine no outgoings, right? Just imagine our current squad, and we spent 150 million, and 80 million of that goes on another right wing back, and 40 million goes on another like defensive midfielder, and then we buy 3 prodigies from Championship, right? That's one way to spend 150 million, and the other way to spend 150 million is to buy 2 center backs for 40 million each, buy a creative mid for 50 million. That's 130, and then buy like Alex Scott from Bristol, right? Who's everyone is raving about, right?
That'd be fun.
And I think that's a much different outlook, and you spend pretty much the same money, right? So I think,
or even the same thing. You look at it this way as well. Like there are 1,000 different ways you can draw it up. Where we've spent 14 million on Joe Rodon. The same season we were linked with Kim and Jay, and he was available for 10 million. It's just how you spend it. It's just whether you do your research. It's whether you do your homework, and it's whether you did the right sort of preparation to know that this is the right guy for us, and you did all your homework on it. And it's just been the case that Spurs, I think since Paratici has gotten here, this is a whole nother topic we'll get into another time, but I think Paratici has had a better hit rate than the previous directors of football. But that being said, has he also gotten some wrong? Absolutely.
Yeah,
and also, are we still kind of like we're hopeful that Basuma, Richarlison, all these guys that he signed over the summer will do well under the next manager? But let's say they don't. That does then look like a pretty bad hit rate probably from Paratici. So that's still up in the air as well. But Michael, before I move on to Brad, though, is there another topic that, because I obviously steer people in 1,000 different directions. Is there maybe one more topic that you wanted to touch on before I let you go?
Yeah, I think, and it's connected with the question that's currently on the screen, right?
Sure.
I will also like kind of repeat what I was talking with David, what I was talking about with David, right? For me, it's not really about who is the manager, like the name. I think it's more about how we approach it. So I believe that any person that's like at UEFA license A or whatever the level is, right, or pro or however it's called, right, they have the capability of steering a team, right? If you support them, if you listen to them, if you actually do proper decisions, make proper decisions, sorry, I think you can achieve great things, right? But slowly. As I said, I don't think that Tottenham can spend 300 or 400 million, in a year and, splash the cash on world-class players and immediately build like a super team, whatever, right? But I think whoever it is, if it's Nagelsmann, Pochettino, Almorim, Glasner, whoever it is, right? Or even someone else, Gallardo, whoever, I think what needs to happen, what I would want to happen, right? I don't think it will necessarily happen because of the history, right? That's proving us that it will happen a different way. But I think what should happen is whoever is brought in, they are given time to assess the squad, right? And then they have a sit down with Levy. Levy tells them, listen, I have 120 million to spend in this summer, right? And no more, no less, right? 120 million is all you get, right? So be honest with that manager, because like soaping their eyes with like, oh, we will spend great money, and then bring in players like for a cheap price. It's not the way, right? I think they should have a sit down, and that manager upon hearing that should go, okay, my issue with this squad is X, Y, and Z, right? So for example, central defender, left.
Does that mean though the manager can't be too much of a yes man? He can't be too much of a yes man. He has to be
I think
you can't concede too much. Like with
I think they should just listen to the manager, right? Those people know what they are talking about, right? They are like professionals in their craft, right? I think if Levy sat down with a director of football, whoever it is, if it's Paratici or someone else, right? That manager, whoever it is, right? If it's Nagelsmann, Pochettino, whoever, right? And he sat down, all 3 of them sat down, right? And the manager said, listen, the issue with this team is this, this, and this. This is how we fix it. Like changing this position. I think this player should be moved on. This player should be moved on. And Levy is like, okay, we will do it, right? We will support you in your decisions. And I think then any manager can work wonders with this team, right? because I think there is a nucleus of a great team and a young team, right? If you look at it, we have Poro,
More
Udogie,
Bentancurs, more Kulusevskis, more
Kulusevski,
Romeros. We're on the right
Bentancur,
track.
Romero, Kane and Son. Until they are that, they are world class players, right? So even though they are not the youngest, I still think they have a few years in them, right? Whether they are here or not, it's a different thing, right? But at least for the next season, both of them are here. So I think we need like 2 center backs and a goalkeeper and an attacking mid. And I think we seriously have a proper 11, like a good, like, top 3 11. The bench may be an issue, right? But the 11 is there, right? So
I don't think we're that
that's
far
what
away
needs to
either.
happen,
It's
right?
just the part is that it's like we're not that far away either. But it's like if we were like a body, if we were like assembling, like a robot or something, it's like we are missing the legs. Like it's
Yeah,
even though we are
exactly.
like we are missing a huge body part right now. Like even though we're only a few body parts away, we are missing some
it's
vital
some,
body parts to actually
like,
get it going. So it's tough,
it's like a heart in a cam, right? That's missing, and legs in defenders, right? So
Exactly.
it's like
You'd like to think we can get it done this summer, but who knows whether we can actually assemble the robot in this sort of manner in the summer. But I don't know. Just one last thing, actually, Michael.
Yeah.
Eddie Gonzalez and some people have sort of brought up how he says, I just want a manager who doesn't see himself bigger than the club and who takes responsibilities for his faults. And then also Derek Smith brought up earlier how he wants a manager that basically guarantees or at least says that he is here for the long haul and is here for the project. Is that my last question for you? Like, do you agree? Like, you want somebody that's signed up for like 4 years, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's going to be here for a while.
Because I think with the my hopeful plan that I laid down, which is like a total agreement, between manager, director of football, and ownership, right? I think that guarantees you that the manager will stay here for a couple of years, right? Because why would they leave if they are being listened to, right? Why would they leave if you get what you want, but within the constraints that that the ownership tells you, right? As I said, Levy is like the person, he sits down, tells you the budget for the window, right? And if you work within that budget, but he listens to what you want to do within that budget, right? Because you are the footballing expert here, not him. You are the footballing expert, right? So I think if it works that way, I think a great things can be achieved, right? Because kind of, if you, I know that Poch didn't get many of the signings that he wanted, right? All the stories about Fernandes, Grealish, and other like histories like that, right? I know it didn't happen, but if you look at it, like for the first 2 or 3 years, it actually worked that way. We were getting what he and Mitchell wanted, right? Levy was sanctioned, like, giving them money for the transfers within the budget of the club. He was giving them money to do the transfers that they wanted, and look how it turned out, right? Of course, they fucked up massively after that by not buying players for free windows, right? Then sacking Pochettino. It's all shambling decisions, right? But for that small period, from appointing Pochettino to like the first window that they stopped spending, I think it was working quite properly, and I would like to replicate that with a new manager.
I also do hope that maybe, Michael, that the players that we signed over this last summer, someone put in the comments, you hope that they end up feeling like new signings with the next manager. Who knows? Basuma could feel like a new signing. Then all of a sudden we look like a much better team. Richarlison would look like a new signing. We look like a better team. Maybe like we said earlier with Brian Hill, he could come into the situation, look like a great Kulusevski alternative for us when need be, or like kind of a creative midfielder. Maybe, you never know. And so I do hope that maybe a lot of the players that were eventually, for right or wrong reasons, kind of outcasted by Conte and weren't really in the fold, if they end up turning it on with the next manager, we could also find ourselves in a much better situation after that. But Michael, great conversation as always, my friend. And thanks for helping me trying to fix Spurs.
Pleasure as always, Jack. I've been hurting a bit because actually one of my teeth like broke and actually talking
geez.
was kind of painful for me, but I still really wanted to talk with you today. So
How's
yeah.
thesis and classes and everything going? Is it all
Oh,
finished?
it's great actually. Because we had, it would be like kind of a couple of minutes talk, so I won't really like get into like the nitty gritty, but everything is going great. I am
Good to hear,
like
my friend.
in full coordination with my supervisor, and the physics is going
Nice.
great. I'm writing about football, by the way, if
Yeah,
anybody
that's right. I remember you're
in the
trying to
audience
incorporate
doesn't
it
know.
in.
Yeah, I'm a soon to be data scientist, and I'm writing about football, so that's great that I kind of could like join the passion with
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
stuff, right? So that's really great. And yeah, overall
Man,
in
I'm
life
glad
it's
that
good.
schools
In
are going.
football
I'm glad
wise,
classes are going well. I'm glad something's
yeah,
going well, at least
football
in the
wise
life
it's
of my.
football wise it's a
All
bit
right.
clapped, right? But
Good man. Good man. Well, hopefully we can get you on a good show sometime soon, or a debate show or a podcast or something, Michael. But appreciate you. Thank you for keeping me company. Thanks for fixing Spurs with me. See you
yeah,
soon, brother.
pleasure speaking with you,
Alrighty.
Jack. Bye.
Catch you, dude. Bye. Alrighty, everybody. Please hit up Michael in the chat. Please give him a big round of applause. I thought that was a great convo, but we are going to move on to what might be the last guest of the evening. I'll leave the link out for anybody who still wants to come on and have their say, but I do want to have a good lengthy chat with this guy as well, because he's also been very, very patient. It is Brad Matthews. Let's have a chat. Brad, we're going to be fixing Spurs once again.
Oh, gee. Yeah, well,
I said to Mia, so we keep doing that. It's a repeat conversation, fixing Spurs.
Well, it's going to be mentally painful and physically painful. I've done something to my lower back. I don't know what. So it's a bit in a bit of pain, and I didn't sleep a lot last night. So
I'm sorry.
So you might not get a lot of sense out of me. But
That's all right. That's
yeah,
all right.
it's
Spurs don't make a lot of sense either, so that's okay, Brad.
Where do we start? I mean, right. Well, Pochettino.
Well, I have a few different things, Brad. I kind of have Davies out, Emerson out. We could start there. We could also start with like Ryan Mason and Stellini. Like, do you think that's the right option for right now?
Let's start there. Because I have got an opinion on that. I think. Well, first of all, it would seem that Stellini has been in contact with Conte, and Conte has sort of said, yeah, look, if you want to stay there, that's fine. I still, as far as I'm aware, it's only Conte's brother that has left the club as well. That's the guy.
He did leave the club, the brother.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So they're the only two that have left. So the coaching staff more or less is still there. I don't know what will happen at the end of the season. People like the free kick coach, that sort of thing. But I think that Stellini, I don't think he'll be here next season. I think he'll be joining Conte wherever Conte is. But I think Conte has had a chat with him, and I think Stellini, it's a good chance for him, from his point of view, to sort of, let's face it, if Stellini gets top 4 with Tottenham, that's going to look pretty good on his CV.
With all the big wins he's already had.
Yeah, that's going to impress a lot of clubs that are looking for a potential first team coach. I think that the reason, if you look at the, if you go back, it's only last night. If you go to the statement, the club statement, 2 things come up in that. One is the mutual agreement. So I think that Conte quite literally, in his own mind, quit last Saturday. And I think that this week has been basically working out some sort of severance issue. So both can leave with sort of, some sort of respect. So I think that's why it's taken the time, and everyone's going about, really strange time to actually lead the start. Well, not really. That's the perfect time on a Sunday night when people are thinking, right, it's my weekend over, let's go and get ready for work. Bang, the statement comes out.
Maybe that is true, and also because they are going to be taking training today, so it's just kind of like it. They had to make it. They did have to make a decision.
This is the other thing. I agree with what Conte said. Yeah, we can have the argument whether he should have said it when he did, or in that sort of when he said it. It would have been very difficult for him to take training tomorrow. When you think of it, it would be very, very difficult. So I think that this the mutual agreement thing says a lot. I'm taking this statement on face value. Some people might not. The other thing was he mentioned top 4, and I think that's why he's kept with Stellini, because it means that he's got continuity there with Stellini and Mason. The players seem to get on with Stellini. They seem to get on with Ryan Mason. It's still basically going to be Conte-style tactics, so the players are used to that. If you brought a new manager in, then they'd have to completely change the way they play, possibly, and I don't think the club wanted to take that chance. I think they've weighed up one against the other, and let's face it, top four is God with this board or this ownership. And I think they say, well, actually, if we weigh them both up, we probably stand more a chance with Stellini and Mason at the helm than we would if we got in a.
This is what's funny, Brad, is everybody agrees with you, and I had originally, before the show started, a bit of the opposite opinion, where I was just kind of like, if top four means so much to them, why are they leaving it with Stellini and Mason?
Well,
that
this
seems
is
like
where I disagree with that statement and what people must be saying in the chat. I think this is probably their best chance because they've got continuity. They don't have to change too much, And I said that Stellini's had a relative success. Okay, Sheffield United was a complete utter disaster, but he's had relative success doing it by himself. And then he's got a thing to prove now. He's got a thing to prove. It's his chance to say this is what I can do. And if he gets Tottenham into the top four, I mean that's going to look really good on the CV. So I think that's why they've gone with Conte. Now, personally, my own personal opinion is, and I've heard some others say it tonight, they should have got the new manager in if they could have. If the new manager was available that they wanted, they should have got him in, because then, in my eyes, it's forget about Europe. This is pre-season again. We've got pre-season. We've got the new manager's got time to see the players he's got there, and then work on things for next summer. The other thing is they can say to Paratici, or whoever is the director of football, which at the moment will be Paratici because apparently his court case has been postponed until May. So he's got the rest of the season as Tottenham's director of football, or whatever you want to call him. And I'd say get the new manager in to assess what he's got there and say to Paratici, your job, and I've heard someone else say it, your job is to get rid of all these players we've got out there on loan. Sell them. If the manager, sell them just because that is a real weight on our neck. That is having all these players, not only the fact that we put some money there, but the fact that they're there, they're still officially non-Belly is still officially a Tottenham player. Harry Winks is still officially a Tottenham player. Joe
Rodon, all these other guys,
exactly. So, all right, okay, you're going to bring back Jed Spence, obviously. You're going to bring back him, and I think Harvey White's on loan. You're going to bring back him, but the others are players that they couldn't get rid of. So, if we loan them, they're off the wage bill. Get rid of them. Just go out there, set what you want to set.
Do you feel like, Brad, just quickly with the you're making good points here, and the 2 points that I'm thinking of what you made about are like if they feel like the continuity and you don't rock the boat too much, I guess, with sort of just keeping Stellini and Mason there. Does that then mean, though, a lot of onus is sort of on the players to sort of pull themselves together and then be able to achieve top four? Because then it sort of means you're not bringing in some tactical mastermind to, fix everything. You're sort of just taking out one character, one personality out of the situation. It then sort of falls on the players, I feel like, right?
Well, you know what? I mean,
will they be on the beach?
Let me just put some sort of caveat in here. I know that there'll be people in the chat will say, hang on a minute, players or professional footballers, they should be able to adapt to any system that their manager. Well, unfortunately, our darling
hard to do in a week's time. It is
our darling little footballers aren't probably that savvy to do that. So, and the other point, I mean, you've got the team talk against Everton. That's already done, isn't it? All you do is you just say, okay, you heard what your ex-manager said about you. Go out and prove him wrong. So and these players, they're playing for either their Tottenham careers or their careers at other clubs. Yeah. And if they play well in these next sort of 10 games, then they could be playing for the new manager. So
that's a good point. Do you also do you hope that maybe Spurs then in these 10 games, while they have Stellini and Mason in charge, it does give them more time to think about the manager that they do want to hire? But would you like to see that manager that they decide on be hired before the end of the season, and then we can see him in the press box next to Levy, like for a game or two?
Well,
because I agree with that. I would like to see, like Ten Hag had at United that Mia brought up. I'd like to see that.
Our new manager might already be watching us, so
maybe so. Yeah.
I think, as far as I'm aware, and I only read about this, so I think Ali Gold actually brought it up. I think Nagelsmann could be under some sort of gardening leave, so we can't officially get him.
We'd have to pay 20 million to buy him to get him now.
And this is Enoch we're talking about, so they ain't going to do that. And I think you'll probably find there's a lot of managers that might be in that boat as well. I mean,
and some of them might not want to go into this dumpster fire in this
well,
situation.
that's right. And this is why, to me, that we've got a ready-made manager that loves the club, that knows the club, and that's Maurizio Pochettino. And I've said it on the show before. Yeah, I know. My head's telling me it will never work. They didn't back him before. They ain't going to back him this time. Blah 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 blah. But we could have Guardiola at this club. We could have Klopp at this club, and we'd still be the same because of the owners we've got. So, and I don't think they're on their way out the club, in the next soon. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So we might as well, admit to that and just sort of say, well, okay, let's enjoy it with a guy that we all love, or most of us love. Or
you always want to make the best of a bad situation. Anybody should always try, even if the situation is torrid and hard, you would still try to make the best of it.
The other thing I want to say about Pochettino is I see a lot of people are rewriting his history now. Suddenly it's about, he never won anything. Why bring him back? He never won anything. Well, that 3 or 4 years under Pochettino, I saw Tottenham in 2 legitimate title challenges. I saw us get to a Champions League final. I saw us get to, I think, 2 finals and then numerous semi-finals. Now, okay, we didn't win. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to win.
But he elevated us.
Yeah, it's not without criticism for some of the decisions he made. But yeah, it elevated us, and I was proud to be a Tottenham fan. Then it was a family. It was brilliant to walk down the street with my Tottenham top on. And you felt 10 foot tall, and that's what Pochettino. And he'd done that gradually. So I'd like to see him given another chance in a parallel universe somewhere. They backed him after 2019, and who knows if they'd have done that and Pochettino was still been at the club, we might be competing with Arsenal now for the title.
Do you feel like Pochettino, maybe the reason why he might not come back, Brad, is because we keep talking about how Pochettino, we just assume that he wants to, but maybe he might not want to.
Yeah,
because he's seen how much we've invested. You've seen how much we've invested since he's left. Like the stat that I saw was like, that we've invested 190 million when he was here. We've invested more than double that basically since he's left. And so he would see that as like, why the hell did you not just spend that on me?
No, that's a good point. And that may be the case. He might.
Would he have resentment? Yeah, would he have a bit of resentment, a bit of saltiness?
Those players that got me fired are still there. And the other thing is the Real Madrid job.
Correct.
Which I would.
That's what everybody's licking their lips for.
Yeah. So Nagelsmann and Pochettino and whoever else might be looking at that job. So we got a lot of things that are going to happen. So that's what I think. I mean, who knows what's been going on behind the scenes? I mean, it wouldn't be on the realms of possibility. They've already talked to Pochettino. More difficult to talk to Nagelsmann because he's technically still at Bayern, or was until a few days ago. Or if he's on gardening leave, he still is technically at Bayern Munich. But Pochettino is around. There's nothing illegal about talking to him.
Or Luis Enrique, I think right now, or that guy as
well.
Yeah,
I don't know a lot about Enrique. I keep hearing about him. But again, it's another high quality elite manager. Well, they don't seem to work at Tottenham, do they?
He'd be an interesting. I think he could be a hybrid of the two if he'd be willing to be with the club for a while. But I see what you mean. I think in his case, though, part of the trouble is that he actually has a bit of a similarity to, I think, Antonio Conte, where like his wife, Luis Enrique, doesn't want to like move to England whatsoever. This is it, and it would be a similar predicament where I think he'd be flying back and forth between Barcelona and London.
Yeah. Who's living over here with his family? Who's got his sort of love?
That's why I got it. That's part of the reason I like Poch is because he actually wants to be here, and I agree with that.
Yeah. So I look.
We're assuming he wants to. We're assuming.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is Daniel Levy, if he employs Pochettino, he's got to admit he made a mistake in sacking him in the first place. And Mr. Ego is probably not liable to do that. So. And, there's apparently some people on the board that aren't exactly with it. I have got actually quite a unique idea, which would solve both problems, that Daniel Levy should actually make himself the manager. And then we'd probably lose a lot of games and he'd sack himself. So there you go, at the club.
Cool. Exactly right. Yeah, he pins the tail on his own head.
This is Tottenham Hotspur. Silly things happen with Tottenham Hotspur. So So yeah,
he mutually agrees to end him. Mutually agrees with himself. Has a gentleman's agreement with himself to stop himself for the rest of the season. I agree. That could be. It's the only choice left. Mind games. What do you think, though, Brad? Another question I do have about kind of. I feel like this Pochettino versus Nagelsmann. Do you want to maybe? You don't need to explain where maybe other fans are coming from, but why is it that maybe a lot of people were? I guess Mia wasn't. She made it very clear that she never really did want Poch back. But some people have felt like we're on the Pochettino train. And then now that Nagelsmann's in the picture, it's like they've turned their head and like they want Nagelsmann now. What do you think? Like, where are people coming from with that? Why is it that Nagelsmann seems more attractive?
Yeah, I mean, we were interested in Nagelsmann, I think, when they sacked Mourinho, wouldn't they? Because it was supposedly the win, the win now manager.
Yeah,
didn't work, and Nagelsmann was seen as a project manager. I know these are two cliches,
right.
And so go for Nagelsmann. But then obviously with the Bayern Munich job, he was always going to go there. Being a German national, that was always going to be his preference. I don't know. I all I know about Nagelsmann is what I hear about him. What in the press or what you guys talk about him, and it's really weird because last week when it had heard that he'd been fired. It was, or even when it was rumored he was about to be fired, everyone was going, Nagelsmann, get him now, Nagelsmann, get him now. Over the weekend, that's changing. The Nagelsmann backlash has already started. And over the weekend, I'm hearing more and more people say, oh no, he's done this and he's done that and he won't do this and he won't do
part
that.
Of it. I'll be
yeah, it's weird. It's really strange. So I don't know. This is why, me with my limited sort of, knowledge of football is think, well, Pochettino, I know what I'm getting with him. I know what we, the football we played. I remember the good times. Yeah, I know if you break up with someone, you only remember the good times. You don't remember the bad times and you want to get back with them again sort of thing. But that's why.
I just have more. I'm with you in that. I am not putting down Nagelsmann entirely. In fact, I do think he's probably my second or my third choice. If I'm going to be honest, I do think he's probably.
I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be upset. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, if Nagelsmann's our next manager,
but I have more question marks over him than I do Pochettino. Actually, I have weirdly more. I do have some criticisms of Nagelsmann and some skepticism about how it went at Bayern and whether that will carry over to Spurs. And I think there are worthy questions asking about why it didn't go well at Bayern and why would it then go well for him at Spurs. And obviously he's a young guy who deserves another job. Like he has a very up and coming career and a very up and coming future. But I do ask myself, like, some of the reasons it didn't go well at Bayern are now being released, and a lot of it was off the field issues. A lot of it had to do with his sort of personality as a person. Will that follow over to Bayern, or will that follow over to Spurs, or was that a one-time scenario, or is that just specific?
Well, I don't know a lot about him personality-wise, but I mean, if you look at the fact that Bayern, he won the title with Bayern last season. They're only 1 point off the top this season. They got to play Dortmund on the weekend. They won all of their Champions League games, so they're in the quarterfinal. It's not a bad record, really, is it?
The first season, I would say, Brad, to add a bit of context, the first season was, you could say, it didn't go well in that he got knocked out of the Champions League in the quarterfinal to Villarreal. He also, in the round of 16, the opening leg, like drew 1-1 with like RB Salzburg, and then at home, like in the home leg to Bayern Munich, they went like 1-0 down. I think they went 1-0 down or something to RB Salzburg too, like at home. So it was looking really bad. And then he also got knocked out of the Pokal, like their domestic cup, like very early. He got knocked out in the early round. So like his first season did not go well. His second season, where I'm left a bit confused, despite the league maybe not being convincingly won yet, it looks like he's doing okay for the most part. Like it does look like he's turning it around a lot. And so it does seem like he was sacked more for some inconsistent performances, but it seemed like he was sacked maybe more for some off the field issues that maybe
he's certainly not. I would have thought he wouldn't be under as much pressure at Tottenham than he would be at, say, Bayern or say Real Madrid, where you basically got to win. When you're a Bayern Munich coach or you're a Real Madrid coach, you got to win the title. That's it. Same with Pochettino at PSG. You've got to win the title. That's it. It comes to Tottenham, he's not going to be expected to do that. And I'm not saying that we're not going to expect him to do well, But as far as someone was saying the other day, we're not good enough to win trophies. Well, we should. I know we didn't. We should be playing in a cup semi-final in April against Man City. And if we could have got there, you've got to win, say, 2 really, really hard games, and you won a cup. So to say that we're not ready to win things or win cups, we're not ready to win the league. We're miles off that. But to win cups, I think, we still. And I've always said the cup is really based on obviously you've got to be a good team, but it's also on who you get in, who you draw and who the other teams
and whether you want it. It does.
Yeah, all the other teams draw. So Man United could have drawn Man City, and that's one of them gone. So so I think winning cups is based on how good you are, but also a lot of luck comes into it as well with the way the draw goes. But so I don't think look, if Nagelsmann's our next manager, I'm not going to have a problem with that. Don't get me wrong.
I have hope for him. I just have more question marks for him than I do. That's just all it is. But at the same time, I do feel like we need to bring in a manager that can commit to the job at least 3 to 4 years, like people have brought up before, and can also unite the fan base under a style of football that we can all get behind. And whether Nagelsmann delivers that, Pochettino delivers that, Postecoglou delivers that, whoever delivers that,
This is it. This is it. I think the fan base, if we get, I know I was watching Snell the other day, and he's having a go at, he said, "There's no such thing as a project manager or as a win now manager," but can't deny that Mourinho and Conte are there giving the team something, whereas Pochettino was build it up. So I think Spurs will go down the project manager road. And then the fans have got to be patient. That's the first season under Pochettino, I think we finished 5th, didn't do anything in the cup. So, we got to League Cup, didn't we? Got League Cup final, I think. With
I liked your point about how the Pochettino narrative is sometimes slightly,
sort
of, I don't know, because it's the same thing with like Nagelsmann. Like Nagelsmann took RB Leipzig to like all new heights, but he never actually won anything with RB Leipzig.
Yeah.
But he took them to like heights they'd never been before. And it was the same thing with Hoffenheim, where he took them to brand new heights they had never been before, but he never actually won anything with those clubs. So it is similar to
and I think with and Pochettino also with him was the fact that we got to a situation where getting in the Champions League was just that was just basically accepted. We were actually, and this is the old Bill Nicholson, I think it's Bill, was it Danny Blanchard, I forget which one, the old aim high. It's better to fail aiming high than succeed aiming low. And that's what we were with Pochettino. He wanted titles. And when you aim for a title and you miss out on it, you've got the consolation of getting the Champions League anyway. So it's like Arsenal this season. Obviously all the Arsenal fans, they want to win the title, but they know that they're more guaranteed to be in the Champions League next season. So, it's a consolation. So I think if we do get the project manager in, we've got to be patient. I hope we can get rid of some of these players. That's
why I have a manager to watch like the last 4 or 5 games of the season, so he can know which players to get rid of. But you also said that's Paratici's job too. Let's not.
He's got to be out there. And this is a strange thing about Paratici is the court case. I said on the show with David earlier that. It's a harsh world out there, and I'm surprised that he wasn't fired when all this came up, because I thought his job would have been a little bit untenable when all this stuff happened.
I thought it was too.
So he could possibly be out there now getting all these contacts for players for Tottenham, getting everything right, all ready to go, and then suddenly he's out of the job. So what happens?
That's why I'm confused. What's he doing? Is he just playing Football Manager for the next 3 months?
Exactly. So all this stuff he might be doing over the next 3 or 4 months might be for nothing anyway, because he can't do his job anymore. So it's a difficult one, that. But it's as I say, it's never boring.
Any other things I didn't get to let you talk about, or something that maybe you wanted to get to?
Let's see. I had the leaving out thing. No,
there was also sorry.
I heard Mia obviously saying that as soon as you leave the show, I was going to say that.
Emerson is out for the rest of the season.
That's something. This could work
We're
in our
screwed at
favour.
fullbacks and wingbacks right now.
This could work in our favour. Now, look, I think Emerson's done brilliantly over the last few games to get himself, back there. But he still is lacking attacking wise. There's no getting over that. Now that Davis is now out, and it doesn't look anytime soon that Session will be back. it looks like we're going to be forced to play with Paratici on the left, and I'll not say forced to play Porro on the right, who's a good player, but we're forced into having Porro on the right and Paratici on the left. That's going to force us into playing a lot more attacking football because those, certainly Paratici is not a very good defender. So that could be very interesting. That could work in our favour.
It's also an opportunity for Porro, I think, to win some fans over. I think because he could,
I like
Kulusevski, Bentancur. Remember, Kulusevski, Bentancur won so many fans over to get us top four.
They did. Yeah.
What if we did? I mean, I'm not saying we are getting top four, but what if we did get top four and Porro does have a spectacular final 10 games this season? He could do the same thing where we'll be singing, he's the reason we got us in the Champions League.
We'll definitely have a song for him. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be, but yeah, we'll have a song for him, and actually, I've thought about something. So I think we'll be forced into playing a bit more attacking that way. We still have to sort out our defence. Our defence is still rubbish, but it might be a case of, hey, let's just go for it. And that's what the Pochettino teams, they used to press high and make it difficult for the other team to get out. And so in that way, we have better defenders. Obviously, the other thing I want to say is I think the new manager is going to have an influence on whether Harry Kane stays as well. I think Harry Kane. I personally think Harry Kane will stay.
But also, the manager would like to know whether Harry Kane is staying.
Exactly. I'm not saying that Harry Kane will sign a new contract, but I think he'll stay. But I think that could be influenced by who our next manager is. You always said that if Spurs show ambition, then that'll be the next.
Haven't we even heard that Spurs are more willing to try to convince Kane to the very last moment, before. Like they are willing to, even if Kane says, I'm leaving on a free, they'll be more willing to convince him halfway through the season. Like, come on, give it another thought.
Exactly. It gives him another year, doesn't it, really, to convince him otherwise. But
they don't seem like they want to sell him this summer.
And I think the 100 million price tag is far too high, in my opinion, for the buying club. Harry Kane, great player that he is, he's still 29, but he's worth 100 million to us, because if we sold him, we probably have to buy two players to replace him.
We lose 50% of our goals.
And that's where your 100 million comes from. So I think that in that respect, then that price tag is correct. And I think he'll still be here. Let's face it, the only reason he wanted to leave before is because Nuno was probably the coach. So if we could get a decent coach manager in, then convince him.
I hope Pochettino or Nagelsmann is convincing enough for him.
I think those two would. He had a good relationship with Pochettino. We know that. So and Nagelsmann could be that young up and coming manager that might inspire him to sort of stick around. And then the other thing about Kane is that he's got a job for life here. If, when he retires, who better to have on your coaching staff than Harry Kane?
That's he has. I mean, let's be honest. Even the club ambassador role would be probably beneath him.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but he has a variety of different jobs available to him. You're right. Is he one? That'll be a question for another time. But is he a player that could end up being a good coach? I'm curious whether that is the case.
He's never actually said that, has he? He's never actually
said it, and I feel like he'd be under the Thierry Henry, where he's not arrogant like Thierry Henry is, but he would be kind of the guy who's just well, just do this, and it's well, not all of us can spray a 60-yard outside the foot pass.
He might. He might be good at a youth level because he's had that experience. He's done what a lot of these kids could be doing. He's done all the loan. He's had his career took a while to take off, but he had to go on a lot of loans to other clubs. So he's been through it all, and he's just got better and better. He was. I don't think you could say he was naturally gifted, but he's worked on his game, and now he's one of the best players, certainly one of the best forwards in the world. And his record proves that. I know there's some people say, "Oh no, penalties shouldn't count," or goals scored off his shin shouldn't count, or goals in the 6-yard area shouldn't count. It's like
I loved your tweet. Yeah, I loved your tweet. He scored it 6 yards outside the box.
It's crazy, totally crazy. But he's anyone that breaks Jimmy Greaves' record, and for that matter, Bobby Charlton, Gary Lineker, Wayne Rooney, Michael Owen's record, can't be that bad, can they?
No. Even just the other day, Dave and I looking at this debate where it's who's the best English player in the Premier League, and Kane doesn't get one single mention. Like they're mentioning Jack Grealish 2 times before they're mentioning Kane, and you're just like, this is just out of hand.
Crazy. I actually put a thing. Well, okay, he hasn't won a trophy, which they can't say. They still use that argument even with his English record. Well, if you look at all the top goal scorers for England, there's only one guy in that's won a trophy with England. That was Bobby Charlton. So you can't use that as that argument with scoring goals for England. But I still see it. And then I made the comment, well, okay, winning trophies. Is that saying, well, James Milner has won FA Cup, League Cup, Champions League, and the Premier League. So does that make Jack Milner a better player than Harry Kane? Now, I think most football fans out there, no matter who you support, will say that Harry Kane is a better footballer. I still have people saying, oh, no, Jack Milner's better.
Also, how many times do you probably catch England fans, I imagine, Brad, being a Spurs English fan yourself, how many times I bet do you catch them doing kind of both sides, where it's like one moment they're like screaming their lungs out after Harry Kane scores, and then the next moment they're slating Harry Kane for not doing enough at Spurs. Like,
exactly. It's like, well, okay, I'm from an older generation, but so I've seen pull on the England shirt, Bobby Charlton, Gary Lineker. Actually, no, I can't include Gary Lineker because he did play for Spurs. Bobby Charlton, Wayne Rooney. I can't remember the other 2 players. Alan Shearer, and there's another player. None of them played for Tottenham, but when they played for England, I supported them full on. You don't get that now. You just do not get that now. I think Saka is an absolutely amazing player for England. He's done really well, but you don't get that people this bias about, oh, no, he plays for the other club, I don't support him. It's crazy. And the final point, and I have to say, I wasn't around when Stanley Matthews was playing, but for any of you who don't know, Stanley Matthews was one of the best English footballers ever. He only won 1 trophy, an FA Cup. Not going to say, oh, suddenly he's not a decent player.
Good point.
So,
despite also going a bit crazy, Letitia as well. People say,
yeah, Letitia. I mean, it's like 1 club player. Yeah. It's Harry Kane. Maybe he just likes playing for Tottenham.
Even also, basically one of the best ever Italian players, Francesco Totti, right? Stayed at Roma his entire life and only won, I believe, 1 trophy, or didn't even win a trophy. I'm not mistaken.
It's he doesn't show ambition. Well, maybe he wants to win something with Tottenham. That's his ambition, to win something with Tottenham. And he's going to spend his rest of his career trying to do that. So
yeah, I agree. Brad, as well, though, just a quick, Donovan Osterreicher, member for 11 months, says, hey, Jack, just finished at the gym. I'll catch you next time. Miss chatting with you guys. Hoping the new era brings something fruitful, and come on, you Spurs. And also, Donovan, really appreciate it. 11 months as a fan show member. Hopefully we can chat Friday, my friend. But and also post-gym, I imagine you don't want to ruin that good vibe, that good feeling that you have right now with talking about the unhealthy Spurs in this case. But do appreciate your support, Donovan. You're a good man. And thanks for tuning in still while you can. Thanks for also all the support. But Brad, and like I said, any other final points? And also, I want you to plug your channel as well. And who is it? Jason Bell says here, pick up, Brad. By the way, the space surfing song is great.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much. That's really nice. Thank you. Well, there you go. The latest song on Blue Sofa Songs is out now. He says, like it's been released. It's on YouTube, and it's called Surfing in Outer Space. It's an instrumental because basically I couldn't think of anything to write about. So I thought I'll do an instrumental that's got a riff based on it, and it's called. I couldn't think of a title. I come up with a chorus. So there's a chorus in it, and I thought, which is space related. So I thought, well, okay, let's call it "Surfing in Outer Space." Gave me an opportunity to use the Star Trek jumper I bought for a Sega Christmas party once, where we had a fancy dress. Science fiction was the theme. Gave me an opportunity to use that. Gave me an opportunity to put a pair of sunglasses on and try and get a dematerialization effect at the end. Gave me an opportunity to do a guitar solo, which I double tracked. I recorded it twice, and the second time I recorded it, I didn't hit the right note, so I hit different notes. And it seems to work. So there you go. So yeah, Blue Sofa Songs, a song out every 2 weeks. They're all of the guitars, bass, vocals. They're all me, and I put the drum loops together as well. So it's all totally me. And the video editing, in fact, so it's all basically all me.
Nice.
But yeah, please go. And thanks everyone that's watched it. I was getting a little bit despondent because the last couple of songs didn't do too well, but this one has clicked up over 100 views now over 2 or 3 days, which is really pleasing. So thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity to plug my channel.
No worries. And thank you for keeping me company, Brad. Thanks for trying to fix Spurs with me. Like I said to Michael, I do appreciate it. Thanks for keeping me company.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me, Jack.
Alrighty. Well, have a good rest of your evening, Brad. And also
too,
great work earlier on the debate show with Dave too. Dave told me that you were on there.
Cheers.
Earlier,
yeah, it's a long one, wasn't it?
Thanks for helping us out. Thanks for helping us out today. Thanks for even helping us out a lot. Thank you, Brad.
No problems.
All right. See you soon.
Take care.
Have a good night. All
Come
right.
on, Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Everybody, show Brad some support, please. Head on over to that channel. Do what Jason Bell has. Check out some of the songs. And also just hit the subscribe, hit the like. Just at least help the guy out. He's helped me out a lot today with the channel. So please show him some support. If you enjoy what we do over here, maybe show some Brad some love as well, everybody. But I think we're going to end it off the fan show here, everybody. Just some last kind of breaking news before maybe to put yourself under further stress, put yourself under further torment here. There has been some news about, it looks like, the Conte training regime. Towards the end of January, Antonio Conte gathered his players at the club's Enfield headquarters for a heart-to-heart. As the final player arrived, Conte walked out, telling his players he wanted them to find the final solution for their wretched form. Also, Conte's intense training regime had Spurs players on their knees. Conte often had them run 2 kilometers before matches. I would say, 2 kilometers is not actually that far. But Tottenham's here says, so furious with the Spurs defeat away to Sporting Lisbon in September, Conte brought forward the 2 p.m. training session to 11 a.m., given the team didn't arrive back on Monday until the early hours of the morning. It was not well received. So some of the training stuff seemed to not go too well. I think we already heard that, but these are kind of more details you could say on that whole situation. So more to look out for, more to be speaking about, more sort of things to wrap our heads around when it comes to this mess at Tottenham Hotspur, everybody. So do stick around with the channel, everybody, as well. I do believe a podcast will be put out by Dave and myself on this whole situation too. We'll be chatting about maybe top 4, Ryan Mason, Stellini, Nagelsmann. So do look out for that. Debate show, I imagine, will be out there tomorrow as well, everybody. So like I said, hit that like button on the way out. And also as well, everybody, do really appreciate you all who have tuned in, for leaving the comments, for having, keeping me engaged, keeping me company as well. Thank you for all those as well who, like Brad and Mia and Rufus and KPV, Michael, for coming on and having your say as well. Really do appreciate it. Cedric in here saying, all hail King Julian. He's a big Julian Nagelsmann fan. So let me know, Cedric, in the next show, why it is that maybe you're a big Julian Nagelsmann fan. For me, I have my critiques. I'm a little bit skeptic. I have my question marks, but he probably is still high up my list. I think, like I said, he's probably 2nd or 3rd in my list there, Cedric. So while I would say I have my question marks, he's not exactly somebody I would rule out entirely. I think I would support him and I would be excited about him coming in, but he's not exactly my preferred choice just because of how it did go over at the likes of Bayern Munich, and also maybe some things behind the scenes. It seems like maybe that also contributed to some of the reasons why I got sacked, but something that we'll be talking about plenty on the podcast as well. And also, anybody, if you want to maybe still watch a long form video, check out the Hugo Lloris one as well, everybody, just because put a lot of effort into it, but I know it's a really, really long sort of piece, maybe a bit overly long, but yeah, check out the Hugo Lloris one too, if you will, and if you're interested in that. But really do appreciate support, Cedric. Thank you, everybody else, Wolf Maller, Brad Matthews, Tequila 316, Donovan, King Hoddle, you absolute legend, Mateo as well, James Richmond, Morlar, Wonderboy, really do appreciate you all, Jack Fazy, Zoe, you absolute legend as well, really do, Jason Bell, X Wisdom, Wisdom Wolf, Derek Hutchinson, you absolute legends, really do appreciate you all for tuning in, everybody. But I will be seeing you. See you tomorrow, everybody. Come on, you Spurs. And I guess in Stason and Stellini and Mason we trust right now, everybody. I will be seeing you. Come on, you Spurs.